Thinking back on their meeting, it was not fate. A philosophy professor once said that fate does not exist. But the moment people accept that a coincidence has passed by as something inevitable, we can only explain it with one word: fate. In the flower garden that day, two strangers crossed paths, setting the gears of destiny in motion. But this meeting was not a coincidence. Everything seemed to have been arranged by some invisible hand. A luxurious mansion stood silently beneath the glittering sky. In the corridor, where a faint light flickered, a girl with golden hair walked softly, step by step. She held a letter in her hand and slowly opened the door to her room. Looking at the beautiful, mysterious man inside, the girl quietly called out, "Heiner, would you like to read this letter?" As she spoke, the girl placed the letter on the desk. Written on it was the truth about Rosenberg's background. The young man seemed not to care much, so he shook his head and said he was busy and that the two of them would talk later. Hearing that, the girl said she had worked very hard to investigate his past. At those words, the hand he had been using to scribble with his pen suddenly froze. Then he raised his head and looked at her with eyes that seemed slightly panicked and confused. The girl still lowered her head, her hands trembling. "Heiner, I've always wondered why you did that to me. You once loved me so deeply. How could you change so quickly? Even if one's feelings can grow cold, this is still far too cruel. I could never understand any of it." The girl with vivid blue eyes and eyelashes the same color as her hair questioned him in anger. "I didn't understand anything before, but now I know. You approached me deliberately from the very beginning, didn't you?" Faced with that direct accusation, the young man hesitated slightly, but with no other choice, he nodded. "Yes, I did." The official confirmation from a man she loved filled the girl with tangled emotions. She did not know whether she should hate him or laugh at herself for being so foolish. Pretending to love the daughter of your enemy must have been exhausting, right? It had been a meeting that seemed like fate. A gentle, loving young man, like a prince on a white horse, had appeared in her life. But everything had been part of his calculations. Even the wedding, even that first encounter. From beginning to end, she had been a pawn in Heiner's plan. This was the kingdom of Botania, a beautiful kingdom filled with fragrant blossoms. The girl's father was Marquis Diego, the king's nephew. The Rosenberg family was part of the royal family. Her father was also the commander of the kingdom's army, and a young man, kneeling before her father in salute, was his subordinate. He was Corps Commander Heiner Weidmar. The two of them had a fateful meeting at the Rosenberg mansion, which was covered in roses. And of course, after 2 years of dating, the two decided to marry. At that time, everything looked so perfect and warm, but the happiness that seemed as if it would last forever quickly came to an end when the Revolutionary Army overthrew the monarchy, causing the nobility to collapse. The Marquis, her father, was killed by the Revolutionary Army, while her mother took her own life. And the most horrifying thing, something the girl and the Marquis's family could never have imagined, was that the commander-in-chief of the Revolutionary Army was none other than Heiner, the person closest to them. Yet even though he had betrayed the Marquis, her respected father, she still chose to trust Heiner. But from that moment on, everything changed completely. He was no longer as gentle as before and began to reveal his true face. Yet the naive girl still could not believe that he had approached her deliberately. The flow of the times had always been like that. That was the choice the girl had to make, because she had tried to understand him, because she had believed in his love. Lost in thought, the girl now stared blankly out the window at the noisy scene beyond. Outside, the people stood before the mansion, cursing and protesting. The only daughter of a military commander who oppressed soldiers and civilians alike. A despicable woman who eats well and dresses finely on a pool of blood. Pay for your sins, Anadai Rosenberg. The girl, Anadai, had never known anything about politics. But now, that had become her burden. Even if she lived, it was no longer truly living. She had been left utterly alone in this world. Even so, she was still waiting, hoping he might return to her. How foolish. Had she done something wrong? Was her very existence a mistake? Collapsed and weeping in her room, the girl kept questioning herself. And the answer to all her questions was in a letter that had been sent to her today. Beneath the golden evening light, the mansion looked terribly sad. Desolate. She had tried, in every possible way, to change his heart, and that had been truly foolish. In the room, the two of them still faced each other in conversation. In truth, it was not that he had changed or anything of the sort. As she spoke, the girl quietly reached out and picked up the letter. The truth was simply that, from the very beginning until now, that man had never truly loved her. The girl looked at the man and slowly asked if she had misunderstood anything. But now that things had been exposed to this point, he had no reason to deny it. He shook his head and said she had not misunderstood at all. The girl clenched her teeth in anger and demanded that he say something, that she wanted to hear the truth directly from him. The young man looked at the woman who had lived with him for years. His lips moved as he said something, accompanied by an inscrutable smile. The truth? I hated your father, Marquis Dietrich, and the royal family. The truth is as simple as that. Approaching you is also part of the plan. That is all. The girl stared blankly at the cold, indifferent manner of the man before her. That beautiful face lowered once again, hiding her intense emotions. Does the object of that hatred include me as well? His cold eyes looked at the woman before him. About 2 years ago, there had been rumors that the royal family had secretly trained spies. He had been one of the spies in the training camp managed by her father. As he spoke, his hands sometimes trembled slightly, as if there was some hidden grievance within the story. All the spies had been killed during operations or eliminated to silence them. He was the only survivor because he had accomplished many things. After the Marquis had secured his position, he was very pleased and kept him by his side. And that was how Heiner saw her in the mansion's garden. It was the fateful meeting between two strangers. And at that time, the girl had expressed her condolences to him for those who had sacrificed their lives for the country. To him, the way she looked when she offered those condolences was as though it were some great act of grace. I thought something was wrong. Are you included among the targets of my hatred? Of course you are. I hate you. The girl, Anadai, listened calmly to this answer she had already expected. Ah, I see. Her doubt had been a simple matter. When he approached her, she had been nothing more than an object of hatred for his revenge. In the end, Heiner Weidmar hated Anadai Rosenberg. If that was the case, then this story seemed much easier now. The girl looked at the man before her and said, I did not know that, and I loved you with all my heart. But now let us divorce Heiner. Faced with her request for a divorce, he shook his head and said he would not allow it. Why? Am I still useful? My father and mother are dead. The royal family has fallen. I have nothing left. All I have now is the title of wife in name only to you, Heiner. You have finished your revenge. The more the girl spoke, the more agitated she became. His hand slammed hard onto the desk, letting out a loud sound. Then he slowly walked toward the girl, step by step. He stood close to her, his gaze cold, as if he were looking at a dead object. With that large body of his, the man's powerful hand seized the girl's soft face roughly. My lady, where do you plan to go all alone to find happiness? Faced with this cold brutality, the girl still stubbornly argued back. There is nowhere left where I can be happy. Then the story is simple. As Heiner spoke, he revealed a sinister smile. If there is nowhere left for you to be happy, then it would be best for you to remain miserable beside me for the rest of your life. Looking at his figure wrapped in the crimson glow of sunset, the girl suddenly realized that this man's revenge was only beginning now. On that fateful day, when the beautiful sunlight poured down over the mansion filled with fresh flowers and a rich fragrance that made anyone feel gentle and at ease, the two of them had sat on the flower-covered grass, chatting happily. Heiner, how many languages can you speak? 4 common languages. I was taught them from a young age. That's amazing. I even gave up studying abroad because I was too timid. I don't have any talent for studying either, but I know that you play the piano very well. Receiving his compliment, the girl immediately grew shy. Lately, I'm not sure if this path truly suits me. Heiner looked at Anadai with eyes full of deep affection, as profound as an autumn lake. Anadai, you play beautifully. You will certainly become an outstanding pianist. Being praised by a handsome and talented young man, the naive girl naturally blushed with joy. How can you say that? You've never heard me perform. How would you know whether I play well? Heiner, really? Her giggling laughter rang out like music, pleasant and beautiful to hear. Time continued to pass until one day, when the two of them sat in a boat drifting on the river beneath the sparkling stars. Heiner proposed to Anadai. The ring of destiny was gently slipped onto the fair hand of the beautiful girl. Amid the picturesque mountains and waters, Anadai was immersed in sweet love, her eyes brimming with tears of joy and emotion. At that time, Heiner sincerely promised that he would make her happy for the rest of her life. It was a beautiful night for the two of them when they decided to begin a new journey together with the words, happiness for life. But from an angle the girl could not see, the young man's eyes contained no such beautiful emotions. His lips also curved into a sinister smile, full of schemes. Before, it had been happiness for life. Now, it was misery for life. Lying on her bed, Anathai stared blankly at the ceiling after waking from that dream of the past. If only all of this were nothing more than a dream like the one she had just had. Early the next morning, as usual, the girl read the news about herself in the freshly printed newspapers. Today's headline was, "Remnants of the Royal Family. We have no obligation to guard them." The content of these articles gave Anna a terrible headache and left her exhausted. At that moment, footsteps echoed through the mansion corridor. The girl, graceful in her pale-colored dress, slowly descended the stairs one step at a time. "Ah, my lady, where are you going?" Seeing the man who had just approached, the girl immediately recognized him. He was Major Eugen. He was Heiner's loyal servant, Major Eugen Mako. At that moment, he looked at her with eyes that were not at all friendly and asked pointless questions. Looking at the man before her, the girl thought to herself that she probably would not be left in peace. She did not want to face him, so after giving a few perfunctory replies, she slipped past him and left first. Just as the two of them brushed past each other, he suddenly spoke, making the girl freeze. News of the Commander-in-Chief's marriage prospects has already spread inside. You know Lee, don't you? She is an outstanding woman, someone who planned strategy together with the Commander-in-Chief, and a victor who has gained tremendous support from the public. Tell me, doesn't she suit him very well? After a moment of shock, Anathai regained her composure. She turned to look at Major Eugen and answered his question. "It seems so. It will soon be widely reported in the press." "How long do you think you can continue living like a rose in a flower field?" the coal major said. Everyone now wanted Anathai's downfall. Every day, the newspapers called for the extermination of the remnants of the royal family. Letters of criticism and threats had been sent countless times. That was why, for her, staying beside Heiner was hell. "You are a stain on him. What will others say about this marriage?" Hearing the major's words, Anathai slowly replied that she had asked her husband for a divorce yesterday, but he had refused to accept it. She guessed that he wanted to see her miserable face from up close. She would be very grateful if the major could persuade her husband, since it had been a very long time since the major's wishes and hers seemed to align so well. The pitiful girl had realized the truth far too late. Everyone hated her. Why had she ever thought he loved her so much? In the dark room, a small figure was covered by a huge blanket. Then came the sound of someone's footsteps approaching. Heiner opened the door and entered the room, calling out, "My lady, I know you are not asleep. Just listen to me." I tried to quietly refuse the marriage proposal, but the article still appeared. "In any case, nothing will change. If you were expecting something, give up." Anna did not want to hear those words, so she weakly asked him to leave the room. He had clearly said he hated her, so why would he not divorce her? It was as if the sky would collapse if he said the word divorce. "Everyone says this. Thanks to you, I am still living well. Commander-in-Chief, why will you not divorce me?" As the girl spoke, she slowly sat up, her slender shoulders weak like pale flower petals in the morning mist. "I'm a stain on you, so you should erase it. Do you only want to see me wither beside you, even if it costs you that much? Do you still hate me that much?" Heiner avoided her gaze and said that he did not know where she would go after leaving this place, or where she could live well. "Do you know where I have hidden assets or something? I have nothing and nowhere to depend on. You know that very well." Hearing that, Heiner asked in return, "You had many good connections among your young gentlemen. Perhaps you do not know that some of them have fled abroad." Anathai immediately shook her head, because they were people she did not need and places she did not need. She only needed a divorce. Faced with the girl's persistence, the man's face darkened coldly. "Is that what you want? I do not want to hear any more." Looking into those eyes, Anathai wondered when his eyes had become so frightening when he looked at her. Why had she not known that his gentle, smiling face and sweet voice, and everything she had loved about him, had not been real? After all was said and done, Heiner truly was an excellent spy. Returning to that room, the girl still said with determination that she no longer wanted to live with him. Heiner smiled and asked in return, "Why?" "Because you know you were betrayed. Have you come to hate me?" Anathai calmly shook her head. "No, it is not a matter of whether I hate you or not. I do not hate anyone. I cannot do that, even if everyone in the world hates me, because I have no right. In the newspapers and in the letters, I am a remnant of the royal family, so I must be be exterminated, if necessary, and if everyone wants it, then I do not care. I still do not fully understand politics. But at this moment, I have learned what noble causes, human rights, and democracy mean. She had also learned why people had overthrown the royal family and established a new government. Although she did not truly understand it, she had accepted it, and everyone says it is my fault. Is it all right to do that? Heiner frowned coldly at the woman and asked, "My lady, do you know what you were saying? Nothing matters or has anything to do with it anymore. I only need a divorce. Even if I collapse, I do not want to meet my end as your wife." The pitiful girl did not want the young man she had loved to see her in this state. This was the last shred of pride she had left. Heiner's hands clenched tightly and trembled. From his mouth, he kept repeating, "Divorce, divorce, divorce. My lady, you have lived so easily that even speaking of divorce comes easily to you." Heiner shouted angrily, "From now on, you'll also be my wife. Never dream of freedom or happiness again. Wherever I can see you, you will suffer every misfortune and pay the price for your sins." If there was one thing, the only thing she wanted to receive back from him, it would be every single moment in which she had ever loved him. The beautiful, sincere love she had given had been wasted. Heiner got up from the bed and said that, in a few days, there would be a party for the opening of a hotel, so she had to attend as his wife. Therefore, she should prepare herself. "If I do not want to go, will you drag me there by force?" Anathy's question and stubbornness made Heiner sigh with a headache. "If you keep defying me, you may be locked away in a psychiatric hospital for the rest of your life. Running away will not work either. I will definitely find you. I have that much power. If you want to avoid such endings, it will be better for you to do as I say." He warned her coldly from the very beginning. He had always been that kind of person. She had known that he approached her with a purpose, but she had deceived herself. She could not admit it and had brainwashed herself. Now, she had lost everything she had. Love might fade for a while, but it would surely return to her side. The moments when they had once loved each other. Those seasons when they had once been in love. "Answer me, my lady." Heiner's voice, cold as ice, rang out once more. At that moment, the girl flinched, dazed, and wondered why she had not realized it sooner. That love had originated from self-interest and was not simply love as she had foolishly believed. "I understand. I will prepare for the party." After Heiner left, Anathy sat blankly on her bed, surrounded by countless tangled thoughts. In any case, when she could not sleep, medicine was very effective. One sleeping pill slowly entered her body, as if it were a habit. Anathy stared pensively at the remaining pills in the packet. Then she went over to the dressing table and took out a small bottle. The beautiful girl's gaze seemed calm, yet sorrowful, as she looked at the pills inside the bottle. Then she took the 2 pills from the packet earlier and put them into the bottle as well. Anathy stared blankly at herself in the mirror, then lowered her eyes again to those terrifying sleeping pills. Early the next morning, in the beautiful mansion, Anathy spoke to the doctor with a headache. "It seems this medicine has no effect. Can you not prescribe me a different medicine? Today I woke up early again because of a headache. It seems you want some sort of perfect medicine. Migraines are a common illness. There is no need to be overly sensitive." Hearing that, Anathy asked, "Does that mean I must live with headaches like this all the time?" The bald doctor looked at her for a moment, then nodded. "That is correct. So that is how it is. Also, lately I've been feeling tired and slightly feverish. My whole body seems unwell. It may be due to stress or lack of exercise. Do not just lie down all the time. Go for a short walk. My lady, you are the type to be sensitive to even minor discomforts. I am attached to the mansion, not my lady's personal physician." As the doctor spoke, he tossed out a pile of medicine. The maids beside them saw this and giggled, whispering among themselves. They did not regard Anathy as the mistress of this mansion at all. Anna understood why everyone hated her, but there was nothing she could do. "I understand. Thank you for your patience, Dr. Anno." Time passed in the blink of an eye. Today was the evening party Heiner had spoken of the other day. Heiner appeared in the middle of the party with his wife, the girl who always carried a sorrowful expression, drawing everyone's attention. The host of the party, the man opening this hotel, hurried forward and smiled in welcome. "General, it truly has been a long time, has it not? This is all thanks to your investment. What would you say the trend of society is these days? I think it will also have a major impact on the newly opened branch. With the cooperation of the service staff, franchise operations will become easier. We will do our utmost." After that, the other guests came one after another, so they could talk with and get acquainted with the general. Anathy stood alone, watching everyone revolve around that man. She wondered what an incomprehensible man he truly was. This was a place where no one welcomed her. Her not wanting to come along as his wife was the bare minimum of reason. Looking back now, the answer was easy. For someone like her, who hardly ever left the house, this was exactly like opening a door to misfortune. There was no place where malice toward her was as clear and blatant as at this party. The hotel owner was now asking the general, "How did your marriage talks with Miss Anlai turn out?" Heiner smiled and shook his head. "I apologize for that, but I refused." "No, why is that?" "So many people said the two of you suited each other very well. It was only natural that I refuse. I do not know why you brought up this marriage proposal with me in the first place, but I already have a wife." Heiner's gaze suddenly turned cold, sharp from a distance, and I was still standing there blankly with a glass of wine in her hand. Even if they treated her as if she were nothing, discussing her husband's marriage prospects in front of her was. It was truly far too cruel. Suddenly, a pair of hands settled on her shoulders, making Anathai startle. She was even more astonished when the person who appeared beside her was none other than Heiner. Seeing his intimate gesture, Anathai anxiously wondered why he was acting like this now. Suddenly, the lights went out. From a stage came the host's guiding voice, drawing everyone's attention. "Is everyone enjoying this deep autumn night? For the guests who have come to our hotel's opening ceremony, we have invited a very special person, a magnificent genius born in Bodnia. The ruler of the keys, pianist Felix." Hearing the name of the person who would appear, Anathai was stunned, her beautiful eyes sparkling like stars. Felix was a genius pianist who had swept first place in every competition around the world, a musician loved by everyone in this kingdom. And I was excited. She had never expected to hear his performance in a place like this. The man appeared elegantly, his fingers gliding lightly over the keys, making sound dance throughout the hall. Anathai's entire mind seemed to be drawn in by that music. She had not played the piano for 3 years, but how could she possibly forget this crisp melody? Between the keys, life was continuously given to sound according to the movements of his hands, as if something false had recreated an idea right here. The man with that piano was her idol. I was completely captivated by the music, and this appearance of hers was noticed by Heiner beside her. Ever since the first time she had pressed a piano key, she had listened to his performances while nurturing her dream. It was difficult and seemed impossible, but that dream had still threaded through her for many years. She had wanted to become a free-spirited pianist, as free as he was, during the time when her father still held the position of marquis and before all those upheavals occurred. I had met Felix many times because of her father's connections. She had received his autograph, his encouragement, and conversations with him. Back then, when Anathai looked at him, it was as if she were looking at her dream itself. But now, everything was different from that time. He had been born a genius pianist and had achieved success. Back then, he must have looked down on her greatly, yet been unable to show it, right? She could guess as much. Faced with everyone's malice in the present, Anathai also boldly assumed that everyone in the past had been malicious as well. It was just that no one had dared to show it because of her father's position as marquis. Was that really true? Heiner noticed Anathai's strange expression, so he was about to speak, but the voice of a girl nearby rang out and cut him off. Does Lady Vademar not also know how to play the piano? Being suddenly called by name made Anathai a little frightened and startled. Does my lady not also play the piano very well? Facing those words filled with malice, Anathai felt somewhat awkward, but calmly intended to refuse. However, the people around her did not give her that chance. They continuously asked her to play a piece because she had once placed third in an international competition. Anathai hurriedly refused because she was afraid she no longer had enough ability. But everyone kept smiling and pushing her toward the stage. "Come now, my lady, do not be so modest. I heard you were taught from a very young age." In her panic, Anathai unconsciously looked toward Heiner. She did not know whether she wanted to ask for help or what her gaze meant, but he simply stood there calmly, looking on without any expression. The man was thoughtful and indifferent, as if all of this had nothing to do with him. Anathai was dazedly pushed into sitting at the piano, and in her mind, she silently wondered why she had expected that man to stop this situation. How foolish. The musician Felix also stared blankly at the girl who had been pushed up to sit before the piano. He too realized who she was. Anathai's cold gaze swept over everyone below. Everyone seemed to be waiting for her to make a fool of herself. Would everyone feel satisfied if things went this far? They could witness a girl born a noble fall into such circumstances. But what was the only reason to shatter everyone's expectations? Anathai's hands trembled before the keys. Looking at the piano before her, her father's desperate, anxious voice rang out once more in her head. Anathai, Anathai, Anathai. We have to run. Back then, the girl and I had been sitting in her room playing the piano, startled by the sound of that call. Her father burst through the door and hurriedly told her that there was no time to explain and that she had to get up quickly and run out behind the mansion. In the blink of an eye, there was a loud bang. Her father lay in a spreading pool of fresh blood. At that time, Anathai was beside the piano, blank and utterly horrified as she looked at the dreadful scene before her. The leaders of the rebel army, after killing the Marquis, aimed their guns at the girl in the room. Looking at the beautiful girl before them, tears streaming down her face, they smiled and mocked her. What is this? The Marquis's daughter? Leisurely playing the piano, are you? How very noble. That night, in the mansion, the light in Heiner's study was still on. He was sitting there reviewing a pile of documents that needed approval. Page after page was flipped back and forth, but his mind did not seem to be on the documents at all. His brows furrowed in irritation. Damn it. Heiner remembered how violently Anai had reacted the moment she sat at that piano, how she had kept retching and coughing dryly. Both Heiner and the guests around them had stared blankly at the girl's reaction, because she did not look well at all. The poor girl's retching echoed continuously from inside the restroom. The door opened, and Anathai looked at the man before her, her body trembling. Take me home. I am so tired. Her eyes were red and moist, so pitiful, like a noble flower. Recalling that scene, Heiner's hand tightened around the document in anger. That was clearly a sign of psychological trauma. Trauma? A woman who had not cried once in the past 3 years? A woman who had lived in a splendid and peaceful mansion, surrounded by lavish parties. What was trauma supposed to mean? Damn it! Heiner shouted in frustration and threw the pile of documents hard, sending them scattering through the air. To be shaken like that by a single piano. And yet she had spoken of divorce with an indifferent expression. It had no value, but he could not leave things like this. How much had he endured? For how long? And how far had he come in order to obtain her? Heiner kept questioning the flow of his own thoughts. It did not matter how unreasonable this choice was. He remembered the innocent girl beside the piano, the clumsy, unrequited love of his youth and loneliness for a noble flower beyond his reach. Now, it was a past he wanted to erase completely. In the darkness, Anathai felt around and turned on the light switch. The room was filled with familiar memories and furniture, now covered in white cloth because hardly anyone touched them. Anathai's eyes were filled with pain and memories as she gently raised her hand and touched the piano before her. This was the piano she had played ever since she was small. It had been brought over from the Rosenberg mansion. Anathai slowly sat down on the bench and opened the lid, revealing the clean black and white keys. Anathai knew very well what kind of sound would come out when she pressed each key, but now all of it had become useless. When it came to playing, she could not even press down a single key anymore. That day, after her father's death beside the piano, everything had collapsed. Power, connections, money. Everything vanished in the blink of an eye. Looking at the piano before her, Anathai sighed in pain. She had once thought that, once time passed, everything would gradually become all right. But it seemed the story was growing worse and worse. The girl's delicate, pale, white hand rested on the keys, but she did not have the courage to press down. So that was how it was. Now, she truly had nothing left. Sitting across from the piano, Anathai felt as if everything in this mansion was surrounding her, imprisoning her, and pressing down on her. The next afternoon, after hearing the butler's report, Heiner quickly went to Anathai's room. He strode quickly down the corridor, showing that his emotions were not stable in the slightest. Not only had she shut herself in her room, she had even refused her meal. It was not resistance, but it was still an eyesore. Knock, knock, knock. The sound of knocking rang out. Even after he entered, she did not so much as look at him. He went into the room, only to see that Anathai paid him no attention at all. What are you doing? Embroidering in your room all day, and even skipping meals? Are you protesting? Weakly, Anathai remained focused on each stitch in her hand and replied, That is not it, so please do not concern yourself. What are all these packets of medicine? Heiner discovered a pile of medicine on the table. Seeing him pay attention to her medicine, Anathai shouted in agitation, What are you doing right now? Noticing a tin box with an intricate pattern, Heiner continued to ask, What is this? Why is there so much medicine here? It is just medicine, and I did not want to say much about that pile of medicine. Is this not medicine the doctor prescribed for you? That is right. I did not take it all, so I gathered it there. Heiner was angry because this girl was lying so blatantly. I will have someone bring your meal. Wait a moment. This medicine is old, so I will take it. Anathai turned sharply to look at him and asked loudly, Why are you? But suddenly, she fell silent and said nothing more. I will not eat. Do not bring food up. Heiner said coldly. Do you mean you want to starve to death? If you want to die, then die in a more elegant way. You are the princess of Rosenberg, after all. Those words of his were like a knife stabbing into her heart. A princess? Anathy's lips pressed tightly together in restraint, her body trembling slightly. Seeing her fall silent like that, Heiner also turned his face to look back. Just then, a servant brought in the meal. A bowl of hot soup and several slices of bread. Seeing that he was still standing there, Anathai said irritably, Leave. I will eat by myself. If I leave, you intend to throw away the food again, do you not? The man remained just as stubborn as ever, making Anathai shout in frustration. Whether I eat or not, what do you intend to do about it? Her tone was nothing like her usual self, leaving him stunned. Why was she reacting so sensitively? Could it be because of the medicine? It seems you think you know me very well, do you not? I suppose you do. You must have, in order to put on an act and win my heart. But, Heiner, everything has changed now. Now, I'm no longer your lover. I am no longer the princess of Rosenberg. Now, I have nothing left at all. So what do you want from me? Her words made Heiner flinch slightly, but it was true. Now, she had nothing left. That proud background of hers had now become a scrap of paper, and everyone who had loved her had disappeared. But why? Because she was still beautiful and noble, just as she had been the first time he saw her. Could she take him back to that miserable time, his childhood? With countless thoughts swirling in his head, Heiner changed what he wanted to say into cold words that left his mouth. Eat before I force you to. Anathai slowly used her spoon to touch the hot soup. The two of them fell silent, making the meeting heavy and unpleasant. Heiner watched Anathai, while also glancing toward the cloth she had just been embroidering. A few pale purple flower branches were half finished on it. It looked somewhat messy. Her embroidery was a mess, and now she herself was in disarray too. Clearly, Anathai had once happily and excitedly given Heiner an exquisite handkerchief. Her embroidery skills had once been so beautiful and delicate that it was almost disgusting. But now, it looked like a child's work. This madman was remembering those beautiful days of the past. While he was thinking, Anathy's voice interrupted him. I want to go somewhere alone for a while. Somewhere a little farther away. Alone? No. Who knows where you might go? I thought you would refuse. Anathai sighed. Come to think of it, I don't even know when it started, but now I need your permission for everything. The silent young woman put down her chopsticks after eating only a few spoonfuls. Do I have to disappear before you can even pretend to eat? If I hear that you skipped another meal, I'll consider it an eating disorder and send you to the hospital. Before turning to leave, Heiner did not forget to warn her. The door slammed shut with a loud bang. Sitting blankly in the room, Anathai could not help letting out a bitter laugh. In his study, Heiner called someone, and a man's voice sounded from the other end of the line. Yes, this is Anno. This is Heiner, doctor. Can you take a call right now? What can I do for you, sir? There's a kind of medicine whose name I want to know. It's a medicine you prescribed to my wife. A small white round pill with SC5A written in the middle. That is the sleeping pill I prescribed for madam. Is something the matter? No, nothing. That's all. Thank you. After saying that, Heiner hung up, leaning back against his desk. His gaze never left the small box of pills. How ridiculous. Did she want to take them and die? Wasn't she a weak woman, without even the courage to do such a thing? He guessed she was merely trying to rely on actions like this to gain pity. She knew nothing of true misfortune or despair, while trembling before trivial things like other people's words or a piano. A woman who knew nothing of beatings, torture, and hunger. A beautiful woman, innocent like a flower, carefully protected in a greenhouse. Heiner, your eyes are so beautiful. My eyes? This is the first time I've heard anyone say they're beautiful. Really? I think your eyes are the most beautiful. They're the other parts of me ugly. Hearing that, he became anxious. I have a very high standard. If you weren't handsome, I would never have let you become my lover. He smiled then. As for me, no matter what you look like, I will still like you. But that doesn't mean you aren't beautiful. To me, you are the most beautiful person in the world, my noble flower. The beautiful memories flooded back one after another, making Heiner frown in frustration. He wanted her to despair. He wanted her to be unhappy, just like the ruin of his own life and everything he had endured in the past. As Heiner thought this, he took off his robe, revealing a body covered in terrifying scars. Looking at himself in the mirror, Heiner told himself that he wanted her life to suffer the same darkness. And in every moment when she collapsed, he would be ready to stay by her side. The sky was clear, with a gentle breeze, and a few small, lovely sparrows searched for food beside the fountain. Anathai sat wearily on a bench, gazing at the beautiful garden. She sighed. I'm so tired. Everything had come so suddenly, one thing after another, leaving her no room to breathe. The noble flower in the greenhouse had been coldly thrown straight into a barren, harsh desert. She had wondered what she should do to turn around this love that had changed and twisted. If she had a child, would this relationship improve? And even though their nights together held no affection, that man had never refused her, even though she had never seen his body, not even once. Even though, right after they were done, the two of them had never welcomed the morning together happily. Even though she was always left alone in his cold room, she wondered whether Heiner could ever return to the way he had been. Why? Why did he never refuse her? If he had been more forceful, more decisive, and even coldly killed her outright, everything would have been much easier. Was the sunlight this warm so that she could continue living with empty hope? Would it be all right if she simply died like this? Just as Anathai was basking in the gentle sunlight, a young woman's clear voice rang out. Good day, madam. The sudden voice startled Anathai slightly. She turned her head to look beside her. The person who had appeared was a beautiful young woman with bright red eyes and hair of the same red color. She was the woman discussing marriage with Heiner. The woman came up beside Anathai and asked, Do you have time? Shall we talk for a while? Anathai calmly nodded. All right. Seeing that, the red-haired woman glanced at Major Eugen as if she wanted to say something. Noticing the exchange of glances between them, Anathai realized that this woman was acquainted with Major Eugen. She must be a comrade from the Revolutionary Army. The red-haired woman sat down beside Anathai and began the conversation. I wanted to meet you for a long time. I didn't expect to meet you like this. How is life in the mansion? I heard you rarely go outside. Anathai looked into the empty space before her with deep eyes and answered softly that she was simply living quietly. Yes, it seems so. To be honest, I've only seen you in the newspapers, so I wonder what kind of person you were. Not wanting to listen to meaningless words, Anathai interrupted her. Only, it seems you're not here because you're curious about my health. If you have something to say, please say it. Only fell silent for a moment, then went straight to the point. I heard he did not agree to the divorce arrangement. To be honest, I do not like you, madam. I nearly hate you. When I think of what your father did and what you enjoyed because of it, I want to grind my teeth in anger. At the same time, I deeply respect Lord Heiner. I do not think you are suited to be by his side. Even if it is to control the opposing forces, he and I must marry. The murmur of the fountain, the faint fragrance of flowers drifting on the air, and the rainbow in the distance made Anathai's heart strangely calm. After going through so many upheavals, the young woman now felt completely at ease when facing everything. That is not an issue you should discuss with me. It would be better for you to speak to my husband. Hearing that, only spoke up. Madam, I am warning you. We can use Parliament and public opinion to persuade him to give up this marriage with you. Missingly, I know you people use me in front of public opinion. At first, I felt very wrong because you spread things I did not even know about and turned them into my fault. Only immediately refuted that. Those things were not entirely non-existent. Anathai nodded in agreement. That is true. Even if the content was exaggerated, I cannot say I was innocent. 3 years have passed. I no longer resent you now. I respect that so-called greater cause. I mean that sincerely. Facing this young woman who was so understanding, profound, and gentle like a flower, Emily could not bring herself to be angry. As I said earlier, the matter of divorce is no longer within my authority, so please do not worry too much. This marriage will end soon. Anne and I stepped forward into the sunlight and slowly sighed. Looking at the reports and newspapers in her hands, Anathai felt another headache coming on. The amount of sponsorship to the Citizens Association, 250, 300, 120. While she was concentrating, there was a knock at the door and a maid came in. Madam, a gentleman wishes to see you. He says he is an old acquaintance. Hearing that, Anathai immediately asked in confusion, what acquaintance? Yes, he said that if I mentioned the name Anga, Madam would know. Hearing that name, which had long been covered in the dust of memory, Anathai was clearly rather surprised. Anga was a young man with golden hair and light-colored eyes, looking extremely fresh and lively. Anga, the second son of Count Stewart, a family closely connected to Rosenberg. It has been a long time. The two of them had been close since childhood. One could say they were childhood sweethearts. This man had once proposed to Anathai, but as soon as she rejected his proposal, he went abroad to study and cut off all contact. Since then, Anga looked at the young woman before him and said, I haven't seen you in a while. You've lost a lot of weight. Although his family had collapsed during the revolution, because he had been overseas, he had avoided that disaster. You are still as beautiful as ever. And I did not know how to face the praise from the person before her, because now she had become a wicked woman in the gossip of public opinion. I sent letters, but you didn't reply, so I had no choice but to come here myself. Anga sighed. Don't tell me you sent them to the old mansion. Anne and I asked in confusion. How could I? I sent them to this mansion. You are the wife of the commander-in-chief, after all. Hearing that, Anne and I remembered that man. Guessing what had happened, she answered awkwardly. Ah, is that so? They must have been overlooked. I should look through the pile of letters. The two sat down on the sofa, and Anne and I asked how Anga's life had been and whether he would be returning to this country for good. Anga shook his head. He had come back to settle a few matters and also to see her again. He was now serving as an ambassador in France. And I was clearly surprised and asked, in France? That's right. As you know, after the revolution, everyone went into exile in France. I also moved there after graduating. An ambassador. So you have succeeded. Hearing that, Anga gave a self-mocking smile. What success? If I had kept living as I did in the beginning, perhaps I would have had a better life. As you did in the beginning? Anga smiled. I got married, and last year I also divorced. And I was once again surprised. Is that so? Yes, but it was unavoidable. I only married because I needed citizenship. Anga put his teacup down on the table and began the main topic. He said he had come here because he had something he wanted to say. He knew what the atmosphere here was like. He also knew that she was being used by public opinion and that her husband was cold toward her. Looking at the pitiful young woman before him, Anga asked sincerely, Do you intend to continue a marriage like this? Anga's direct question made Anadai somewhat flustered because she was afraid the servants nearby would hear and tell Heiner. First of all, I also want a divorce, but right now, it is a bit difficult. Hearing that, Anga asked in return, Is it difficult because even if you divorce, you have nowhere to go? The frail young woman nodded. If you came here to tell me that you know my situation, then, before Anadai could finish speaking, Anga interrupted her. No, come to France and live with me. Anadai stared blankly when she heard those words, unable to understand. I still like you. If you marry me, you will obtain French citizenship. Take my hand, Anadai. You will be able to be happier than you are now. Or, at the very least, you will feel more at ease. Anga's words suddenly made Anadai remember the promise Heiner had made years ago. I will make you happy for the rest of your life. The young woman asked herself in confusion why she had suddenly thought of Heiner then. Facing Anga, she shook her head and said that her husband would not allow it. Anga's eyes flashed. If you divorce, then you will already be an outsider. What use is it if he doesn't allow it? The situation right now is not very good for you. At this moment, your only choice is me. Hearing Anga's persuasion, Anathi's head began to ache again, and she asked whether he could give her time to think because this was too sudden. Of course, I'm sorry for speaking so bluntly. I've always waited for this day, but for you, hearing it so suddenly must be surprising. Then I'll give you my contact address. My business card is here. But right now I'm staying at a hotel. Wait a moment, I'll write the address for you. You can come to the front desk. No, you can come directly to my room. Looking at the man before her, Anadai quietly thought that he had seemed a little unfamiliar earlier. But now he was just like he had been when they were children. Anadai gently accepted the address from Anga. For some reason, everything made her feel as though she had returned to those childhood days, when she had not needed to know anything at all. You must contact me, Anadai. If you need help, tell me anytime. He smiled and waved goodbye. I will. Thank you. Anga had come quickly and left just as quickly. As the door closed, Anadai looked at the hotel address written beautifully on the small piece of paper and wondered why he had come to find her. The Stewart family, an ambassador from France, the nobles in exile, Anga's marriage. Her family were descendants of the king. She carried royal blood. Murmuring these clues and suggestions, Anadai froze. She realized that someone wanted to restore the monarchy. But in this country, the forces supporting the monarchy had almost all been trampled down. Thanks to the ability of Heiner Waldemar, the commander-in-chief, he had become Badania's idol after resolving the chaos and conflicts that followed the revolution. Therefore, the nobles of this country who had fled to France would need the help of outside forces. Recalling Anga's gentle words from earlier, "Take my hand," Anadai looked at the address in her hand. She quietly thought that if she took that hand, it would benefit Anga and the other nobles even more. This was a necessary choice for her. Right now was her final chance to escape Heiner. Soon, another day ended as night fell. Strangely, however, there were only a few scattered stars in the sky tonight. In the dining room, the atmosphere seemed somewhat gloomy, with flickering candlelight and the silence of both people. As they ate, Heiner quietly watched the woman before him. Facing him was Anathai, with her familiar frail appearance and a pensive, indifferent face. That appearance seemed to irritate Heiner even more. He gritted his teeth, then spoke. I heard a man named Manga came to this mansion. What did the two of you talk about? Anathai calmly replied. Didn't you already hear everything from the servants? That's right. I heard it from the servants. But I thought I should hear it from the person involved. Anathai sighed wearily. He wanted me to divorce and go to France with him. Is that all? So the reason he asked you to divorce was so you could marry him? It has been 4 years since I last met Anga. Let's see. How would I know whether you contacted him behind my back or not? I truly do not want to think that far. Hearing the harshness in Heiner's voice, Anathai asked gravely, Don't tell me you checked Anga's letters? Her words struck right at his guilty conscience, making his hand tremble slightly as he picked up his glass. I have no reason to answer that question. In any case, you will never be able to take that hand. There is absolutely no chance you can escape this place. So know your place. A silent, awkward stillness once again covered the dinner table. That was right. If Anga belonged to the forces seeking to restore the monarchy, then of course Heiner would not hand her over to him. Perhaps his refusal to allow the divorce was also meant to bind her legally and control the enemy forces. And her as well. She had been happy about Anga's visit. If it had been in the past, she might have rejoiced at this proposal. But she would absolutely not accept being used as a tool because she carried royal blood. But why were the opinions of Heiner's close associates so completely different from his? Everyone hoped Heiner would divorce her and end things with her. Even she wanted to divorce Heiner and free herself. Yet only that man did not want it. Why? Anathai gently placed a hat with a veil on her head, along with a handbag containing a few necessary belongings. She was dressed in modest clothing, mainly in green, but her face was still just as sorrowful and pensive. Perhaps this beautiful flower wanted to go somewhere to clear her mind a little. Anathai walked to the door and told the guard that she was going to church and did not need anyone to accompany her. The young guard immediately bowed and said that if Madame wished to go out alone, she would have to ask the commander-in-chief for permission first. Anathai shook her head. She did not want to make things complicated. The young guard seemed about to say something else, but she immediately raised her voice and questioned him. Now, even if I only want to go pray, I have to ask Heiner for permission. Her fierce reaction left the young guard bewildered, and he had no choice but to agree to let her go. And so, in the end, Anathai was able to step out of the mansion alone. Standing by the roadside, the beautiful girl looked around. Then she reached out and hailed a passing carriage. She slowly sat down on the seat inside the carriage. The driver asked where she wanted to go. Anathai hesitated for a moment, then told him to take her to Chester Garrison. The train released clouds of thick black smoke, and its whistle sounded, warning that it was about to depart. The station was crowded with adults and children, along with the sounds of laughter and play. Sitting quietly on a seat in the train carriage, only then did Anathai let out a relieved breath. She looked at the people around her and thought to herself that she had not expected to be this close to everyone. Surely the article about her had not been published yet, right? Her gaze was drawn to the aged hands of the old woman sitting opposite her, a rosary in her grasp. The old woman was praying, but Anathai wondered what she was praying for. It had been far too long since she had gone to church. Everything was answered by the gods, but no matter how much she prayed, the gods would not hear her. Anathai was too exhausted from begging for salvation and forgiveness from others. Now she only wanted to look again at the seashore she had seen in her dream. The frail girl sighed once more. Noticing that sigh, the old woman asked with concern, Miss, is something the matter? Pardon? Oh no, it's nothing. I asked because I saw you sighing. Where are you going? Anathai smiled awkwardly and said that she simply wanted a change of mood, so she was planning to go to the sea. Alone? You are not going with your lover. I am married, but my relationship with my husband is not very good. We have even mentioned divorce. Seizing the chance, the old woman asked, Do you have children? No, I do not have any children. Then you should have a child. These days, so many young people get divorced. When I was young, that was considered a woman's flaw. It is all right. Times have changed a great deal. There are no nobles anymore, either. Seeing that the girl was flustered and did not know what to say, the old woman asked again, Why is your relationship with your husband not good? But this old woman is meddling too much. Anathai knew the old woman only meant well and wanted to show concern for her, but she did not know how she should answer that question. After hesitating for a while, she told her story. Her husband and his servants all hated her. Even if she died, they would not care. And now, she no longer wanted to live with him either. Hearing that, the old woman sighed as well. That is true. I understand. It is hard to endure the fact that someone hates you, but there's nothing we can do about that. We should simply live in the arms of the people who love us. Human beings cannot wish for others to either hate them or love them. She nodded in agreement, then slowly turned and looked at herself in the reflection on the glass. That was right. She could not hope to receive love from everyone, but she simply did not want to be hated. All the people who had loved her were already dead. Then what should she do now? The train set off, and by the time dusk gradually fell, the blue seashore and the glittering seagulls appeared before her eyes. Standing by the sea beneath the beautiful sunset, Anathy's smooth, flowing hair fluttered in the cool wind. Looking at the gentle scenery and listening to the murmuring waves before her, the girl wondered blankly how long it had been since she had last seen the sea. Ever since getting married, she had been completely unable to come here anymore. Suddenly, Anathai noticed a man with painting tools sitting on the beach. It seemed he was painting, but she wondered whether he sold his paintings. Anathai hesitated, not knowing whether she should speak up and ask. Before she could ask, however, the man seemed to know what she wanted and immediately said, "Yes, I sell paintings. Please feel free to look." No. In any case, I was planning to leave. I will draw you for free. Sit down. Anathai stared blankly at the offer, and she hesitated because she did not know whether she should take off her hat. The girl was worried that something bad might happen if she were recognized. "What is it? You do not want to take off your hat? Then I will draw you with your hat on." Hearing the man's smile in his voice, Anathai hurriedly said that it was all right. She would take off her hat. Did he not know who she was? Or was he pretending not to know? Either way, it was fortunate. And so the beautiful girl sat down beside the beach under the light of the setting sun so the man could draw her. But how long will it take? It will be quick. It is free, so you are expecting a lot, aren't you? But please smile. Pardon, like this. Following the painter's suggestion, Anathai awkwardly formed a stiff smile. Because it had been so long since she had smiled, she no longer knew how to do it. Not like that. The painter spoke while demonstrating in an extremely funny way. Amused by his comical appearance, Anathai burst into laughter. Only then did she show a truly cheerful smile. Am I like that now? Oh, that's right. That is exactly the face. That is the smile that belongs to you. Hearing that, the girl slowly sat still, with a relieved smile and eyes without the slightest impurity in them. Sitting on this beach beneath the beautiful sunset made all the anxiety and pressure she had held in her heart for so long seem to be released. She felt so relieved. All right, it is finished. Take a look and see if you like it. Looking at the beautiful, entranced version of herself in the painting, Anathai was clearly very surprised. Oh my goodness, it looks even prettier than I do. That is because I added a bit of my own skill to the customer's beautiful face. I am very satisfied, but I would feel embarrassed hanging my own face on the wall. May I buy another painting instead? Oh, of course. Actually, the painting of the sea from earlier looked very beautiful. This is a painting of the sea here. You truly have a good eye. And since you became my model, I will give you a discount of 3 coins. Anathai smiled happily as she looked at the painting in her hands. Really? Thank you. The girl was enjoying a rare, small happiness and did not notice at all that Heiner had appeared on the beach at some point and was watching her from afar. The sky grew darker and darker, and the last rays of sunlight danced on the surface of the sea, preparing to welcome nightfall. At that moment, Anathai was happily playing with the water on the surface of the sea, dyed golden by the evening light. The girl also searched for beautiful shells hidden in the sand, and she picked them up one by one and put them into her pocket like a child collecting her beloved candies. Her pocket was now filled with many beautifully colored shells. Anathai looked out toward the distant sea, where gusts of wind and rippling waves rolled in. For one moment, she thought that she wished the sea before her would swallow her up and carry her away. An unconscious sound kept calling to her, making her stop and move farther out. In that instant, her foot stepped on something, causing Anathai to lose her balance. Her frail body swayed and stumbled, about to fall into that dark water. At that very moment, a sinewy hand appeared and seized her. A man in a black suit held her in his arms, preventing her from falling. That person was Heiner. He looked at her with a cold face and asked where she had gone. A few hours earlier, just after Anna had left the house, Heiner had received a report from his subordinates. "Sir, Madam has gone out alone." The carriage Madam took headed toward the train station. Madam bought a train ticket to Granville. As Anna moved, information was immediately sent to all checkpoints and railway stations to ensure that reports would be sent to Heiner in time, so he could catch her at any moment and make it impossible for her to escape. Heiner quickly drove to the train station and hid behind a nearby pillar, silently watching Anna. But it seemed unlike what he had imagined when he saw her unfamiliar appearance. That was not clothing meant for fleeing, so he was curious. What was the purpose of this sudden action? Could she have come to meet that man Manga? At that thought, Heiner was once again provoked, crushing the newspaper in his hand until the veins rose on the back of it. What reason could she have for heading to Granville alone? Heiner had intended to drag her back to the mansion, but he changed his mind. He decided to quietly observe her and boarded that train with her. After all, following behind such a noble young woman was not a very difficult task. And I had bought a third-class seat. Of course, she could not properly buy a train ticket. Heiner, sitting silently behind her, had also heard the conversation between Anna and the unfamiliar old woman. At that time, she said that her husband and her husband's people hated her terribly. Even if she died, they would not care. Hearing that, Heiner silently nodded in agreement because those words were not wrong. No matter what happened to her, he did not care. Even if Anna died and became a cold corpse, he would feel nothing. But he did not understand why. When he thought of that scene, Heiner frowned in discomfort. At that time, the old woman advised her that there was no way to change the fact that others hated you. You only needed to live in the arms of the people you loved. Hearing that, Heiner smiled faintly in mockery because those words were meaningless and laughable. After all, that woman had nothing left except me, Heiner. This madman thought silently to himself. We will stay beside each other until the end, though that is not love. And of course, he silently followed her all the way to the beautiful seashore. As for Anna, she was completely captivated by the beauty of the seashore and the sunset, so she did not notice that someone was following her. At that moment, she thought of nothing and simply smiled with satisfaction as she faced the vast sea. Beside her, Heiner never once took his eyes off her figure. He also saw her happily talking with the painter. It was the delighted, relieved smile she showed when the painter made her laugh. For some reason, seeing that smile left Heiner blankly stunned. He silently asked himself when the last time he had seen her smile was. The innocent girl had once smiled a great deal, always carefree and happy in the past. Even at their wedding, she had worn a happy, beautiful smile like that. Heiner's hands suddenly clenched tight. This was truly a waste of time. I have to take that girl back at once. I do not want to see her looking happy. I cannot allow her even a little freedom or time to spare. I have to warn her. If she does this again, she will be locked up. Heiner had intended to walk over and drag Anna home, but when he looked at her smile, why was it that he could no longer move? Until he stepped forward to catch Anna and save her from falling into the water. You are late. I thought you would come to catch me sooner. Anna was not at all surprised by this man's appearance here. Heiner said nothing, only looked at her bare feet, then signaled for her to quickly put on her shoes and take her belongings. But as soon as those feet touched the sand, Anna cried out in pain. Perhaps when she had slipped just now, something sharp had cut her. The sharp pain coming from her foot made it impossible for the girl to stand. Seeing that, Heiner immediately stuffed her handbag and hat into her arms. Then he swept her up, making the girl panic and scream. I can walk by myself. I'm not so badly hurt that I cannot walk, Heiner. I can walk on my own. Please. Faced with the girl's weak resistance, Heiner only coldly ordered, behave. Hearing that angry tone, she wondered inwardly whether he was angry because she had run away. But Anna had thought he would send guards to catch her. She had not expected him to chase her all the way here in person. After that, Heiner carried Anna in his arms and stopped by a nearby hotel to spend the night. The girl looked around with an awkwardly flushed face. In such a crowded place, she felt completely defenseless because she did not want to attract other people's gazes, nor did she want anyone to recognize her identity. Anna shrank down and hid her face against Heiner's shoulder. Her action made him glance down at her. His arms suddenly trembled faintly, though it was unclear what emotion caused it. Carrying her with one arm, Heiner slowly walked to the front desk. Give me a room for tonight. Very quickly, the two of them received a room. After setting all their belongings on the table, Heiner immediately carried Anna into the bathtub in the bathroom. The girl obediently followed and stepped into the tub. Then, without looking at him even once, she said she would wash the wound herself. Heiner remained silent for a moment, but then he turned and left the bathroom. Warm water flowed out, carrying streaks of vivid red blood with it. When the water touched the wound hurt even more, making Anathai frown. Ah, the wound was deeper than she had thought. After cleaning it thoroughly to make sure it would not become infected, the girl limped out into the room and found Heiner rummaging through something. He said nothing, merely jerked his chin to signal for her to sit on the bed. After Anathai sat on the bed and lowered her foot, Heiner slowly began bandaging her wound. The wound was fairly deep, but since it had been cleaned and bandaged in time, it would probably heal quickly. As Anathai let him bandage her, she thought to herself that nobles of the kingdom were not supposed to let others see their bare feet. Even though they were husband and wife, she had never seen this man's body before either. Thinking of that, Anathai's face flushed red as she turned her face away in embarrassment. As for Heiner, while bandaging her wound, he asked, "What exactly were you thinking? Was this important enough for you to mislead the guards with lies like that? Just to come here and look at the sea? Why? What is here that attracts you? Were you planning to go into the sea for a swim at night like this?" Anai suddenly realized that he seemed to have misunderstood something, but she did not know how to explain it. I only wanted to look at the sea. Let me see. At first, I thought you had arranged to meet Anga there. But seeing you jump into the sea, it seems it is not that simple. Were you trying to kill yourself? Anathai silently turned her face away. I only intended to soak my feet. Hearing that, Heiner gave an unreadable smile. Fine, I suppose so. You are a coward, after all. You are afraid of the dark, afraid of high places, afraid of water, afraid even of ordinary things. Yet you are not worried about what might happen in a situation without a guard. You even left your handbag on the sand. Did you not think someone might steal it? Because there have always been many people to watch your belongings for you, I suppose. Yes, that is right. Anathai nodded. Seeing her like this, Heiner gritted his teeth in silent anger. I always hate you at times like this. The world has changed, but you are still the same. You have not changed a single thing, to the point that it infuriates me. You are still the same disgusting noblewoman you were back then. Hearing those insulting words, Anathai's chest twisted with sharp, throbbing pain. How long had his hatred lasted? Had it been from the very first moment the two of them met? Heiner, you must have found me very amusing, didn't you? And in the end, when you saw my love, what did you think? Her words left that bastard staring blankly, unable to understand. That is right, isn't it? You had to pretend to love a girl you hated, despised, and found disgusting enough to wish dead. And that girl foolishly fell in love with you and told you she loved you. Then it really must have been funny. But if that was the case, you should have said so 3 years ago. 3 years ago, when the kingdom collapsed and my mother and father died. If what you wanted had already been accomplished, then you should have said so. Why did you just stay silent and act so dazed? I knew nothing about it, and I went on loving you for 3 more years. At that moment, Heiner stared at the girl in astonishment. Poor Anathai had believed that he would come back. She had believed that he would smile at her again, just like in the beginning. And she had waited for a change of heart from that distant, illusory love. How much longer did she have to keep repeating this same behavior in order to save herself after countless times of waiting, only to be disappointed again? Heiner was silent for a while before asking, "Even now, do you still love me?" Faced with that question, Anathai remained silent and did not answer. She lifted her eyes and looked at the starry sky through the window. I don't know either. What use would that be now? Nothing would change. In any case, my feelings are of no use anymore. Everything has become meaningless. So why do you care about that, Heiner? Don't worry. From now on, what happened today won't happen again. It will never happen again. Their cold conversation once again ended in an inexplicable way. And because it was already late, Anna decided to wash up and get ready for bed. The girl stepped out of the bathroom in her night clothes, her hair drenched. She looked toward the table and saw a travel bag already placed there. Only then did she realize that he had ordered the guards to bring the luggage. Had he intended to stay here for the night from the very beginning? Sitting before the vanity, Anathai looked through the reflection in the mirror at the figure of that man. Are you staying in this room too, Heiner? Why? If I go to another room, will you run away? That's not what I meant, Anathai replied coldly. After saying that, Heiner walked over and was about to open the door to the adjoining room. But he immediately turned back and warned her not to even think about going outside unless she wanted to be stopped by the guards and dragged away. Anathai silently watched the tightly closed door after he left. The bed was wide, warm, and soft, but the atmosphere pressing down on her mood was strangely heavy and exhausting. At that moment, Anadai lay with her eyes wide open, unable to sleep. Behind her, on the sofa in the corner of the room, Heiner was still busy with his stack of documents. He was so busy that even coming all the way here, he still had to bring documents to read. Then why had he come to find her in person at all? Anai wondered, and why was he so angry? Did he not want to see her, or did he want to stay by her side forever? Now she truly did not know what his purpose was, or what his reasons were. At that moment, after finishing his work, Heiner prepared to head toward the bed. At that same moment, Anai also sat up from the soft pillow. What is it? You still haven't slept? Anai got out of bed, walked over to her bag, took out the pouch of sleeping pills inside, and said that she could not sleep. Seeing that she was about to take the medicine, he immediately grabbed her hand. Heiner questioned her coldly. Don't tell me that every time you can't sleep, you take sleeping pills. What good is that thing? Anai sighed wearily. It's not because I like taking them. Do you think I want to take that kind of medicine? Don't take that stuff anymore. Do you want to get addicted? Heiner raised his voice, frowning in irritation. Heiner snatched the packet of medicine away and told her to sit still and wait for a moment. The way he spoke was truly unpleasant and rough. He was always like this now, but Heiner had not been like this before. In the past, even if they had only quarreled for a short while, he had always been the one to apologize first, gently apologizing as he hugged and kissed her. Had he acted as though he loved her and tried to win her favor just to become someone close to her father? Even though she knew it was meaningless, she kept remembering the old days. At that moment, Heiner returned and handed Anadai a steaming cup of hot water. Here, drink this. It will help you sleep. The girl blankly accepted the cup and asked, What is it? It's chamomile tea. It will make it easier to sleep. Anathi's eyes stared blankly at the wisps of warm steam rising from it. She slowly drank all the hot tea. The two of them once again said nothing to each other. At that moment, Heiner walked over to the table, picked up her bag, and said that he was going to look through it. Anna was surprised, but she did not resist. She merely thought to herself that now he was even checking her bag. Good heavens, he pulled a pile of medicine out of the bag and wondered why there was so much. This is sleeping medicine. What is that one? Anna immediately replied, headache medicine and digestive medicine. What did the doctor say? The doctor said I was overly sensitive. Hearing that, Heiner let out a breath, then turned and continued rummaging through the bag. I paid no attention at all to his reactions or his words. He probably thought that made sense too. At that moment, Heiner discovered the slip of paper with the address that Anga had given Anadai the other day. Very quickly, he recognized what the address on it was, and he also understood that it belonged to Anga. Sitting on the bed, the girl also noticed his action and the paper in his hand. So she spoke up and asked, Anga, do you know him? Is there a force in France trying to restore the monarchy? Hearing that, Heiner immediately frowned. Did Anga say that? That there is a monarchist restoration faction, so he told you to go with him? No, I thought that on my own. I'm only telling you so that you know I'm not hiding anything, and I have no intention of following him. As expected, he likes you, and he is currently unmarried. I haven't even allowed you to leave, and you already have somewhere to take you in, but saying that will not get you anything. Hearing that, Anna gave a weak, self-mocking smile. Wasn't that an effort to create a better world? If this world is cruel to me now, then for others, it must have become better. Because even if I can never sympathize with it, everyone is happier now that the nobility has fallen. Suddenly, at that moment, Heiner's hand appeared, and he came close beside her. Looking down at the girl from above with his terrifying face, Heiner said coldly, I never expected you to agree with that. So don't think about anything, Anadai. You've done very well until now. Calmly facing the madman before her, Anadai explained without joy or sorrow that she would not follow Anga. Whether Heiner believed it or not, that was the truth. Silence once again enveloped the two of them. The cup of hot tea in her hand also gradually cooled. The girl let out a sigh, then said she was tired and needed to sleep. Outside, the not quite full moon had risen high, accompanied by the echoing cries of some insect. At that moment, Heiner had also gotten into bed and was preparing to sleep. But perhaps countless thoughts still filled his mind, so he stared blankly at the girl's quiet figure. Lying beside him, her still and beautiful silhouette, together with her distinctive eyelashes, looked incredibly mysterious and fragile. That madman sat there blankly looking at her for a while, motionless. Suddenly, his hand reached out, wanting to touch her beautiful face. but he immediately came to his senses, withdrew his hand, and cursed inwardly. I should have booked a separate room. Why am I like this? Heiner silently questioned himself. It was truly a ridiculous thought. He tried to shake his head and drive the image of her that afternoon out of his mind. Because he could not sleep, Heiner slipped on his slippers and got out of bed. He went to the coat rack, intending to take his coat, when he discovered something in the pocket of Anathy's coat. Looking at the pile of seashells in his hand, the madman wondered, what is this trash? At the time, he had thought she was diligently picking something up. He had not expected it to be nothing but these useless odds and ends. Irritation surged in his heart, so Heiner threw the pile of seashells straight into the trash bin. After that, he slowly stepped out onto the room's balcony, leaned against the railing, and looked out at the distant sea beneath the bright moon in the sky. A cigar was lit, and the man slowly placed it between his lips. He took a drag, then exhaled in comfort, and his chest felt a little lighter. After meeting Anathai, he had stopped smoking cigars. When he was in dark, suffocating spaces like this, he had usually only held one in his mouth. Now, however, there was no need to maintain appearances anymore, so whenever he thought of it, he smoked. As if thinking of something, he patted his own head and frowned. No matter how far he dragged her down or how much he trampled on her, her existence still touched the deepest and weakest part of him. It made him feel boundless anguish. After getting some air outside on the balcony for a while, Heiner turned and walked back into the room. As he passed by the trash bin, his gaze was once again drawn to the seashells inside it. Just like that, the madman stood there in silence, staring at the pile of seashells. He recalled Anathy's words that in any case, her feelings were useless. Looking at the pile of seashells, Heiner silently said to himself, "Your feelings are not useless." Because those feelings are not returned, they must become despairing and tragic one day, just as mine did. That is why I need you, Anathai. The madman's eyes were full of schemes and were filled with something incomprehensible, making it impossible for others to understand what he was thinking or what he wanted. My noble, damned wife. Heiner was like a madman, helpless amid the tangled mess of his emotions, knowing only how to vent his anger on Anathai. A few days later, at Heiner's mansion, amid the chirping of birds, Anathai was rummaging through a pile of belongings. She took out a file, the list of contributions from the Citizens Association. After that, she looked around inside the safe and took out a small, beautiful box from within. The beautiful girl opened the box and quietly looked at the object inside for a long time. A while later, Anathai, wearing a hat with a veil, got into the car under the supervision of the guards. Among the jewelry shops nearby, is there any place without many people? Hearing the madam ask, the driver immediately replied, in that case, how about Huff and Jewelry Store? But that shop is in an alley, so the car cannot go in. We would have to walk a little. Hearing that, Anathai nodded. That is fine. Take me there. And so the driver slowly started the car, and the vehicle began to move. After reaching a deserted alley lined closely with buildings, the car was forced to stop. The driver, who was also a guard, walked with Madame Anathai into the alley toward the jewelry shop. The driver said, "I will wait outside, madam." "Welcome, dear customer." The friendly voice of the shop owner rang out when a customer stepped inside. "What brings you here, madam?" Hearing that, Anathai put her hand in her handbag and said that she wanted to sell some gemstones. "Please place them here. I will appraise them for you. Please wait a moment." While waiting for the owner to appraise the jewelry, Anathai was suddenly drawn to an item on display in the cabinet. After looking at it for a while, the girl could not help but smile because it was truly beautiful. Heiner had known that she liked sparkling things and did not care about the price. So every time they went on a date, he would always bring her something. Back then, Anathai liked a beautiful white swan very much. Heiner had said that because looking at it made him think of her, he had bought it as a gift for her. "Do you know that my room is full of your gifts? If this keeps up, I might die. I only want you, Anathai. I am only trying to make you live surrounded by all the brightest things. Could this be a proposal?" Heiner gently placed a kiss on the girl's hand and said that if it were a proposal, it would have to be much cooler than this. Back then, with Heiner, the world belonging to the two of them had been so beautiful. The Rosenberg family's assets and Anathy's assets had been confiscated or donated, and there was currently a plan to dispose of what remained. Someday, after she died, she did not want this jewelry to be called the jewel that the daughter of Marquis Diego had once owned. At that moment, the shop owner also brought out a piece of paper and said everything was finished. Altogether, it comes to £2,300. "Do you have any questions, madam?" Hearing that, Anathai nodded. "Proceed with it, then. holding the settlement papers in her hand. Anathai noticed the ring on her finger and hesitated slightly, but she still took it off and asked, "I wonder how much this diamond ring is worth. I would like to liquidate it as well." The owner took the ring, examined it for a while, and said, "This must be worth more than 7,000 pounds. I am sorry, but our shop does not have the ability to pay such an amount. You may have to go to a somewhat larger place." "Is that so? Thank you." 2,300 pounds. She did not know much about it, but it was not a small amount of money. An ordinary person could live for several years on it. The things she had liquidated were all high quality, so even if they were small in size, it made sense. But a ring worth 7,000 pounds? Such gemstones had never existed even in Rosenberg's time. Had he thought that she would be satisfied if he proposed with an expensive ring? In the end, she was only a foolish woman born into a powerful family who knew nothing about the world. A woman of many passions, lacking nothing and enjoying everything she wanted. It was not as if that was wrong, was it? Looking at all the money in her hand, Anathai silently pondered. Amid the ringing of the doorbell, she slowly stepped out onto the street. After that, she left the alley with the driver and returned toward the car. As she was passing a street corner, there was an unfamiliar young man standing there. His appearance and gaze suddenly drew Anathai's attention. It was an unfamiliar face, but for some reason, she felt that something was wrong. What was this? Was he looking at her? Why? There was something about that gaze. Anathai was startled by the frightening eyes of the young man, staring fixedly at her. But before she had time to react, the young man pulled a gun from behind him and aimed it straight at her. In that instant, everything seemed to freeze. Only Anathai's wide, astonished eyes remained. "Wait, Dronzer." The girl immediately turned aside, trying to dodge the bullet. But at the same time, the young man had already pulled the trigger, and a loud bang rang out. Anathai blankly heard the sound, like the scythe of the grim reaper coming to claim her life. Then a powerful force knocked her backward, and her back struck the car. At that moment, the aide beside her reacted as well, quickly drawing his gun and shouting, Madam, are you all right?" Anathai's trembling body collapsed onto the ground, while the young man had already fled quickly. Anathai's entire body shook in waves, accompanied by labored gasps. Her exhausted eyes stared in shock and helplessness at her own hand. Her fair hand was now soaked in fresh blood. The scene suddenly became terribly desolate and eerily beautiful, like a painting stained with blood. Pain now crashed over her, causing Anathai to sob in bursts. So this was what it felt like to be shot. Heiner had been shot 3 times. Had it hurt this much for him too? Her lower abdomen felt as though it were about to tear apart, and those eyes had been truly terrifying. If that person hated her that much, then he should have shot her in the head and let her die. Meanwhile, Heiner was buried in documents when the desk telephone suddenly rang. An aide called to report that the madam had been shot and had been taken to an inner-city hospital. She had lost consciousness, but the doctor said her condition was not critical. Hearing that the madam was in danger, Heiner's eyes widened, and he froze for a few seconds, unable to react in time. The hand holding the telephone trembled slightly, and he did not look calm in the slightest. A line of soldiers was standing in the room, but the sudden call made Heiner immediately rise and say that he would go to the hospital at once. He hurriedly grabbed the coat from the rack and did not forget to order the soldiers to have the car waiting downstairs. Heiner quickly walked out of the room. As for hearing the report, that would have to be postponed until the next day. The soldiers leading the way hurriedly prepared the car for their master. Heiner's expression at that moment was extremely terrible and not at all composed. "To Luther Hospital. Drive as fast as you can." "Yes, understood, sir." The car immediately started and sped toward the hospital. Sitting in the car, Heiner pulled out a cigar to distract himself, trying to stay calm. Only then did he manage to breathe and sort out his chaotic thoughts. First, his wife had been shot on the street. The doctor had said her condition was not too dangerous, but she had lost consciousness. The more Heiner thought about it, the more his heart churned with worry. The beautiful smile of the girl on the seashore appeared in his mind once again. Soon, the car arrived at the hospital where Anathai was receiving emergency treatment. The moment the car stopped, Heiner immediately leapt out and rushed to the reception desk to ask for information. "Where is Anathai, the female patient with a gunshot wound who was just brought in?" The nurse was somewhat flustered by his urgency, but she had seen many patients' families like this before, so she quickly led the way. Under the nurse's guidance, Heiner soon found the room where Anathai was lying. He hurriedly opened the door and stepped into the room, which was filled with the smell of antiseptic and the scent of a hospital. At that moment, the frail Anna had her eyes tightly closed, lying quietly on the hospital bed as if sleeping peacefully. Heiner did not enter, but merely stood still by the door, silently gazing at the girl on the bed. The doctor then came over, bowed, and introduced himself. Heiner paid little attention to that and only wanted to ask about her condition. She was brought to the hospital immediately. Because the wound was not too deep, it has been treated safely, the doctor hurriedly replied. Her wound should recover quickly. Please do not worry too much, sir. After saying that, the doctor hesitated for a moment, but finally decided to say everything. However, Madam was pregnant. She was still in the early stage. But unfortunately, after this incident, she suffered a miscarriage. And the after effects are, Heiner did not hear the words that followed. The 4 words, she was pregnant, struck his head like a bolt of lightning, leaving him stunned. He immediately turned to look at the doctor, his hands trembling. What did you just say? Repeat it for me. That, Madam suffered a miscarriage. She was pregnant? Heiner asked blankly. I am sorry, sir, but in the future, Madam may find it difficult to become pregnant again. Her body was already very weak, so even if she had been able to give birth this time, becoming pregnant again would have been very difficult. Hearing the doctor's diagnosis, Heiner kept repeating those words in his head. Pregnant, miscarriage, 11 weeks? He remembered that night when Anna had asked if he was busy. At that time, the girl had been shy, but still made the request. If he was not busy, then sleep together. And that request of hers had occurred frequently. Perhaps she had been under the illusion that if they had a child, they could return to the relationship they had once had. But over the past 4 years, she had never once become pregnant. The doctor had also said Anathy's body was very weak, so Heiner had even wondered whether she might be infertile. But she had been pregnant? Heiner felt as if he could not believe his own ears. Madam should wake up soon. The remaining tissue in the uterus will be expelled naturally. Of course, Heiner understood what the doctor meant by remaining tissue. It was the child that had not yet had time to take shape. How cruelly ironic. He was dazed and shaken, but he still did not forget to give instructions. The doctor must not allow this truth to leak outside. The doctor also knew who the man before him was, so he immediately nodded. Yes, sir. Do you have any other questions? My wife usually suffers from insomnia, but lately it seems to have worsened. Is that related to the pregnancy? Hearing this, the doctor nodded. In the early stages of pregnancy, there can be many unusual symptoms. Insomnia may also worsen. There can also be indigestion, nausea, or headaches. Hearing the doctor's words, Heiner clenched his hands even tighter, suppressing the panic in his heart. He looked at the pitiful girl lying on the bed, then opened his mouth to ask, Doctor, my wife has been taking a certain medicine for quite some time. Please examine it. If there is a better medicine, replace it for me. Yes, sir. If you need anything else, please tell me at any time. I understand. I will contact you if anything comes up. After that, the doctor went out and closed the door. In his heart, the doctor thought that he had only heard the rumors before, but upon meeting him, Heiner truly was a brutal man. Yet he also felt something was a little different from the image in the newspapers. Wasn't the relationship between the two of them supposed to be poor? Time turned back to 3 months earlier. On a certain dark night, Anna, dressed in thin night clothes with her face flushed red, shyly asked her husband, Heiner, are you busy today? If you're not busy, then, the man silently looked at the girl. Anna slowly reached out her hand, trembling faintly. It was always only she who wanted him and waited for him. If he did not like her, then he should say something. If he did not like her, then he should refuse her. While lowering herself and making that shameful proposal, Anna told herself that, if you do not like me, then do not kiss me. Do not hold me either. Please just push me away. Then my heart would feel lighter. But contrary to her thoughts, he held her in his arms and closed the door. The oil lamp in the room was extinguished as well, allowing darkness to cover everything. The two of them remained silent for a while in the dark, and they knew what was about to happen next. Weakly, Anna took off her robe, revealing her fair, delicate shoulders. She had hoped he would not say he hated her. She had also hoped he would not refuse her. A deep kiss began a night of lingering intimacy. The two of them entwined with one another, even though each still held very strange thoughts in their hearts. And I had also hoped he would not drive her away. But when she looked at the man so close before her, Anna truly wanted to touch him. If all of this ended and disappeared, then when only she was left alone, she would become miserable like dregs. In a haze, with memories constantly mingling and tangling together, Anicaps slowly opened her weak eyes and looked at the scene before her. The smell of disinfectant rushed into her nose. Where is this? Her faint consciousness began to wander blankly. But the moment her consciousness fully awakened, the pain from her wound appeared again, making her hand tremble in agony. Discovering that the girl had awakened, Heiner, who was sitting beside her, immediately stood up, startling Anicaps as well. Anicaps looked at the blank expression mixed with worry and shock on the man before her. That expression did not resemble him at all. The doctor was immediately called in as well to diagnose the situation. Afterward, the doctor explained everything to Anicaps, from the condition of her wound to the fact that she had been pregnant. Having just awakened, Anicaps heard such shocking news, leaving her dazed and unable to come fully to her senses for a moment. Recently, her body had been especially unwell, but she had only thought she was sensitive and that it was a psychological problem. She had longed so desperately to have a child. But now, after all this time, that child had finally come to her, and yet, Anicaps slowly reached out to touch her stomach. All the misfortunes in this world seemed to surround this pitiful woman, making that pain impossible to describe. Heiner looked at the girl sitting silently on the bed and told her that the truth about the miscarriage would be kept secret from the outside world. He would handle it, so she did not need to worry. At the same time, the culprit had also been arrested at the scene, and he was having people investigate the motive and the person behind it. At present, the people were restricted from using firearms, and because she had been pregnant, he would charge the man with attempted murder. And I did not care much about the person who had shot her. She only stared at her stomach and asked, "What about the child? How many weeks was the child?" The doctor said 11 weeks. Anicaps painfully closed her eyes, and she remembered that day. Heiner looked at her like this, and he knew she was suffering from terrible pain. But he did not know how to comfort her, so he could only awkwardly say, "Anicaps, children, if you want, there is still the option of adoption." Hearing these words, Anicaps fell silent, while the hands she had placed on her stomach continued trembling as they had been all along. Adoption? Adopting a child? What are you talking about right now? Anicaps, didn't you want a child? So if you truly want to raise a child, then... Before he could finish, Anicaps immediately cut him off. "No, I don't need that. You don't even want a child either. Have you ever once thought of wanting a child with me?" "No. Isn't that right? It is better that child was not born." Heiner frowned. "What are you saying?" Either way, it would have had to suffer misfortune. It would have had to live in a family without love. While I was pregnant, I was also taking medicine often. Besides, don't you think it is fortunate that things turned out this way? Faced with Anicaps' question, Heiner was at a loss and did not know how to answer. "Anicaps, that I only never thought about a child. The doctors said it would be difficult for you to become pregnant, and there had been no news at all for 4 years. And I did not care about that. She said that now that things had turned out this way, it was a good thing for him. Politically, having a child with her could not be considered a good thing for him at all." Hearing these sharp words from the woman before him, Heiner silently nodded as well. His child with Anicaps, a child born from the woman he hated. He would never have been able to love it. The miscarriage was clearly a blessing amid misfortune in many respects. For him, for that child, and for anyone who supported him. "But didn't you want a child?" Heiner asked quietly. "So what if I did? Whether I wanted one or not, what does that have to do with you?" "Anicaps, I do not mean that." "Then what exactly are you trying to say?" "I only mean that because you wanted a child, you could consider adoption." Anicaps suddenly lowered her head and shouted in anger, "I do not want one anymore. I do not want a child anymore. I do not need a child anymore. So it is better this way. I already said that. So why you keep asking?" The pitiful girl screamed in despair. Heiner stared blankly at her like that and remained silent. Anicaps also faced him, revealing the emotions she had kept suppressed in her heart. A heavy silence filled the entire room, so stifling it made one want to suffocate. After Anicaps had vented the emotions in her heart, she turned over and lay down on the hospital bed, telling Heiner to go outside. She wanted to be alone. He silently looked at the girl before him without saying anything. After he went outside, only Anicaps remained on the hospital bed. Only at that moment could the girl let out a weary breath. Yes, everything had been caused by her own selfish ambition. She did not know whether it was because of loneliness or despair, or simply because she did not want to lose him. But if the child had been born like that, it would surely have had to face a cold world because it carried the blood of Anicaps Rosenberg. So it should not have been born into this world. Yes, this was for the best. But why? Why did Anicaps feel as though there were a great hole in her body? Was it because of the cold? A few days passed. After examining the wound, the doctor confirmed that it was no longer bleeding and had nearly recovered, so Anathai could be discharged at any time after tomorrow. And regarding the medicine she has been taking during this time, which you gave me, sir, I examined it carefully. That medicine is prohibited for women in the early stages of pregnancy. Did the doctor who prescribed it to you before never mention the possibility that you might be pregnant? The symptoms you mentioned earlier are all common symptoms in pregnant women, such as the cessation of menstruation. Anathai recalled the coldness and malice of that doctor, so she slowly answered, "He did not tell me those things." The doctor at this time also realized that something was not right, so he changed the subject. I see. In that case, I will first prescribe a different sedative for you, along with headache medicine. Only after the diagnosis at the hospital did Anathai realize that she had been taking such medicine all this time. But in any case, wasn't things being like this now fine? After the examination in the doctor's office, Heiner brought Anathai back to her recovery room. For some reason, he was strangely gentle and attentive at this moment, even carefully helping her sit down on the bed. But after everything, Anathai was now too exhausted and did not want to say another word. Her silence clearly made Heiner somewhat uncomfortable, but he still voiced his suggestion. "Let us change doctors." Hearing this, Anathai looked up at him with her calm, resentful eyes. "There is no need to do that." "Why not? He examined you several times, yet he failed to realize the truth that you were pregnant. It is all right. It has nothing to do with anything." Heiner immediately asked in return, "What exactly do you mean? It has nothing to do with anything." The girl sighed. "Why are you so concerned about that? If you want to change him, then change him. In any case, everything follows your will. Why do you keep asking me?" "Anathai, I feel very sorry that you went through something like this." Truly, hearing these words of comfort, Anathai could not help but smile inwardly in mockery, because those words sounded as if he were comforting her about someone else's matter, not something that was completely connected to himself. Now, there was no longer any contempt or anger. All that remained was emptiness. Anathai drifted among her own thoughts, and she said she wanted to be discharged as soon as possible. Heiner immediately refused. She still needed more rest, and she also needed psychological counseling. "There is no need. I want to leave the hospital right away." In the past, he would certainly have insisted on doing things his own way. But now, for some unknown reason, he relented and went along with her wishes. "Fine, I will handle it immediately." Just as Heiner turned to leave, his gaze suddenly caught sight of something, causing his pupils to contract in shock. "The ring. Where is the ring on your hand?" Anathai looked blankly at her hands and remembered the day she had gone to sell her jewelry. She thought that there was probably no need to make any excuse. "I only took it off. It has no meaning anymore." Hearing these words, Heiner's hand stiffened. His eyes stared intently at the girl before him with an unreadable expression, but he did not say anything more. He turned and left, telling her to rest. Tonight was a night of heavy rain, each weighty drop striking into people's hearts. At the hospital entrance, a crowd had gathered densely, noisy, and chaotic. Although the miscarriage had not leaked, there was no way to stop news of the shooting from being reported. Because of that, reporters who had sniffed out the news had come crowding outside. Heiner was the man who had ignored her when she had been attacked countless times by newspaper articles. But when she herself was threatened, that was a different matter, wasn't it? Just as the girl was thinking this, that man opened the door and entered the room. "The luggage has all been moved to the car. Let's go." Under the escort of the bodyguards and Heiner, Anathai slowly stepped out of the hospital. At that moment, Heiner instructed her again, "No matter what anyone asks, do not answer. The reporters will bite down on any clue and refuse to let go." Hearing those instructions and glancing at the arm resting on her shoulder, Anathai nodded. "I understand." The moment they stepped out of the hospital gate, the crowd outside immediately became noisy and agitated, while camera flashes went off continuously, dazzling everyone's eyes. "There she is. Was it Madam's intention not to make the treatment records public? We heard this attack was caused by personal resentment. Does Madam have any idea who it might be?" The reporters kept taking photographs and asking questions. "Do you not intend to give an interview, Madam?" Anathai did not know whether it was the chill of the rain or the crowd pressing in so relentlessly that made her hands tremble. The girl now seemed utterly alone in the middle of a hellish world, surrounded by countless cold questions that were almost interrogations. "Are you acquainted with the suspect? Why did you go to the scene of the crime?" Just as Anathai was drowning in a barrage of questions, a voice rang out, making her freeze. "Madam, Madam Fatima, there is something I must say to you, madam. Following the voice, Anathai looked in that direction and discovered an unfamiliar young woman mixed into the crowd, shouting over and over. Clearly, Anathai had been drawn to that woman, yet for some reason, her figure seemed faintly familiar. She was a young woman with curly brown hair and freckles scattered across her face. Madam, I am the sister of the suspect, David. I am the sister of the suspect, David, who shot you, madam. In the pouring rain, the brown-haired woman said that. Hearing the unfamiliar name David, Anathai was slightly flustered and confused. She did not know what the young woman meant, or why she had come looking for Anathai. The reporters beside them heard this sensational news and immediately rushed to question the woman. Are you the sister of the suspect who shot madam? Did you come here at your brother's request? Does the suspect have something he wants to convey? Could you give us an exclusive interview? Faced with the crowd's excitement, the woman immediately shouted, No, I do not want to be interviewed. I only want to meet madam privately. I cannot contact her, so I had no choice but to come here. And I do not wish to give any interview right now. Heiner spoke coldly in displeasure, ordering the bodyguards to quickly disperse the crowd around them. Then he immediately pushed Anathai forward. Hurry, get in the car. Wait. Anathai turned back to look at the unfamiliar young woman. Then I will wait for you to contact me, madam, the young woman called after her. Anathai was somewhat startled, and before she could react, she had already been pushed into the car. Amid the torrential rain, the car began to drive away. The streets were now deserted, with cold air rising in waves from the ground. Together with the chill of the raindrops, it made people shiver. The air outside was already gloomy, and the inside of the car was just as silent and oppressive. Anathai pondered the matter from earlier, because she felt as though she had seen that woman somewhere before. She had clearly seen her somewhere before, but she could not remember when. In fact, it should have been difficult for them to meet at all, because that woman was a commoner. Could she have some grudge against Anathai? Had Anathai done something wrong to that woman? But she truly could not remember anything. It did not seem like they had any acquaintance with each other. The exhausted young woman took the hat off her head. But were her memories accurate? Was she even clear-headed now? After one incident after another, Anathai was not very confident in her own sanity. Since she could not find the answer herself, she spoke up and asked, That girl earlier, why Heiner? Hearing that, Heiner asked in return, Do you know something? I do not know her, but why did she come looking for me? Why does she want to meet me privately? She probably wants to plead for leniency for her younger brother. Do not think too deeply about it. No, that does not seem to be the only reason. And what did she mean by saying she could not contact me? I had noticed the young woman's words, so she immediately questioned Heiner. He was silent for a while, then answered that the woman had sent letters several times. Because I was both the victim and a patient, Heiner had decided there was no need to give her letters sent by the perpetrator's sister. Hearing that, Anathai grew angry. That should have been my decision. Heiner, are you using this method again, so I cannot receive letters? Just like what happened with Anga last time. Bringing up that past incident made it clear that Heiner was not at all comfortable with that young man either. And so, silence once again enveloped the two of them. Anathai stared blankly at the desolate scenery outside and spoke softly. She said she wanted to meet that woman once more. Do you not want to talk about the letters anymore? Anathai let out a weak sigh. Enough. That matter has already passed. Do you mean it will not matter in the future either? Heiner's words confused Anathai, because this man was doing it again. Why did he think there was a future between the two of them? And what exactly was the future he was imagining? Find me her address. Consider it compensation for the letters that were taken from me. In the end, Heiner had no choice but to nod in agreement. Fine, but you must protect yourself. Their conversation ended, and the car also drove into the mansion. Several days later, when Anathai's health had truly stabilized, she was staring blankly at the information the soldiers had investigated about that young woman. The woman from the other day was named Catherine Grott. She had been married for 6 months and was making a living selling fruit with her husband in Quechin. Even after hearing this information, Anathai still could not remember who she was. She was someone who could not possibly have any favorable feelings toward her. Walking along the sun-filled corridor, Anathai wondered whether she absolutely had to contact that woman. After all, simply ignoring her was also a possible solution. At that moment, something outside the window suddenly drew Anathai's gaze. It turned out that below in the garden, Heiner was walking with the red-haired girl from the other day, the new fiancée mentioned by the newspapers. The two of them seemed cheerful, and Anathai did not know what they were talking about. The girl's face suddenly became strangely embarrassed. Meanwhile, a difficult-to-understand hint of a smile smile seemed to hover on Heiner's face. After that, the two of them continued walking. Because the distance was too great and they were separated by the glass window, how could Anna and I possibly hear their conversation? She could only see one thing. The red-haired girl looked at Heiner with eyes full of admiration and a flushed, bashful face. If this had been before, perhaps Anna and I would have been extremely jealous. But after everything that had happened, she found herself strangely calm upon seeing her husband being intimate with another girl. She recalled that night, when he had said he had intended to quietly refuse the marriage arrangement. But the article had already been published. In any case, it could not be withdrawn. She did not think Heiner had lied about this matter, but she had been deceived by him like that before. Was she now supposed to trust that person again? Disordered thoughts once again tangled in the young woman's mind. Which version of the Heiner she knew was truly who he was? At that very moment, Anna and I was suddenly startled when she met a gaze from below. It turned out that at some point, Heiner in the garden had also raised his eyes to look up at her. Then he turned his head and continued walking. Anna and I noticed it, but she remained silent, watching the figures of the two of them. The young woman let out a sigh and loosened her hand. Then she returned to her own room and closed the door. A moment earlier, when Heiner and the girl, Emily, had been strolling along while chuckling together, Heiner had suddenly stopped. Afterward, he turned and looked toward the building behind him. His gaze locked onto a certain figure at a distant window. He watched for a long time without saying a word. Emily also noticed it, and a trace of incomprehensible sadness flashed through her eyes. Meanwhile, at that moment in her room, after thinking it over again and again, Anna and I decided to pick up the phone and make that call. The sound of ringing continued. After waiting for a long while, someone finally answered. A man's deep voice sounded from the other end. "Yes, this is Bruno Garrot. Are you the husband of the young woman Catherine?" The man on the other end immediately replied, "That is right, but who are you? Could you pass a message to your wife for me? Tell her she may come to the mansion at any time. I have given permission for her to enter and leave. She only needs to give her name." On the other end of the line, the man fell in a thoughtful silence for a long while before saying that he would tell his wife. "Yes, thank you. Goodbye." And I had thought that from now on, she would no longer be allowed to move forward on the path ahead. But that strange young woman had appeared before Anna and I. Although she had hesitated, she still thought she should listen to that young woman's story. What had happened, and what did she want to say? What kind of feelings did she have? Perhaps this would be Anathy's first and final opportunity. An opportunity to look back on the past that she was gradually forgetting. Snow-white birds flew across the sky above the mansion, making people feel truly at ease. Today, Heiner introduced a new doctor to Anna and I. Her name was Mila, and she had 12 years of experience as a family doctor. "Madam, I will do my utmost to look after your health." "Hello, I am Anna Fadima. I will be in your care, doctor." Although she used this surname to introduce herself, she was still very uncertain as to whether doing so was right. Heiner, beside her, noticed this as well, but he said nothing. "Hello, madam. I have already been informed of the previous situation. I will pay special attention to your medication. However, madam, I have also heard from the commander-in-chief about psychological counseling." As soon as she heard that, Anna and I shook her head. "I do not need psychological counseling, madam. These days, even children attending school are required to receive psychological counseling. Even so, I truly do not need it. I do not want psychological counseling," because she already knew where her mind had become strange. When tension and pressure surrounded her in overwhelming waves, Anna and I was swept into the feeling of wandering between reality and dreams. That was why she feared she truly was going mad, and if she received counseling, it might be discovered. Sensing the firm rejection from the woman before her, the doctor had no choice but to comply. "I understand, madam. Even so, I will leave the questionnaire here. Please take your time thinking it over. If you need anything, please call me. Goodbye." "Yes, goodbye, doctor." After the doctor left, Heiner was silent for a while. Then he continued, trying to persuade Anna and I know nobles often avoid psychological counseling, but how long do you intend to remain trapped in that old-fashioned way of thinking? And even if there is a problem, it is only like being ill, like having a cold or a headache. Anna and I let out a breath. "I do not know." His words made Anna find it laughable, because only a few days ago, there had been some madman threatening to lock her in a mental hospital for the rest of her life. Yet now he was persuading her to receive psychological counseling. When Heiner saw that she had brought up the words he had spoken a few days earlier, he became somewhat flustered. "That was only because you were always resisting." "Resisting? My request for a divorce is considered resistance? Do not treat me like one of your subordinates." Faced with the young woman's irritation, Heiner also frowned. "Anna, you're the one who thinks of me that way. What are you suddenly talking about?" When have I ever thought of you that way? And I asked back angrily. Let us stop here. I did not say that because I wanted to argue with you. In the end, the conversation between the two of them ended like that. After all, talking to someone insane like Heiner was very difficult. He rubbed his forehead with a headache for a while, then turned and left, instructing her, fill out the counseling form and give it to the doctor. Anne and I watched the tightly closed door and told herself inwardly, what meaning did this life have in the end? A desolate, chilly wind blew the dry leaves, making them rustle, and the scenery appeared faded and sorrowful. In the corridor, Anne and I stood there, absent-mindedly gazing at the view through the glass window. At that moment, she was very confused and uncertain, because the young woman Catherine had just come to visit today. Earlier, Anna and I had said she wanted to speak privately with the other woman and asked that no one be allowed into the reception room. At that time, Heiner had shaken his head and refused. That will not do. But Anna and I remained very firm, because that was what she wanted. She wanted to meet the woman privately. The change in Anna and I and the determination in her eyes made Heiner fall silent. But in the end, he had no choice but to agree. He said he would have someone search the other woman's person to prepare for any emergency, and that Anna and I should carry this knife. Receiving the small, sharp dagger from Heiner, Anna and I seemed somewhat surprised. Now, she had arrived in front of the room where she could meet the young woman from the other day. Even at this moment, Anna and I was still hesitating. But in the end, she decided to push the door open and enter. Inside, Catherine was already seated and waiting. Hearing the sound of the door opening, the young woman immediately turned to look over and stood up in surprise. The two of them politely bowed to each other in greeting, but then neither knew how to begin the conversation, so silence settled between them, making everything seem terribly awkward. After a moment of silence, both of them suddenly opened their mouths to begin speaking at the same time, their words overlapping and startling them both. Then let us sit down before we talk. Catherine looked at the seemingly fragile woman before her and began with a concerned question. How is your health, madam? My body is better now. Thank you for asking. That truly is a relief. Only then did Anna suddenly notice Catherine's slightly swollen belly. Seeing that Madame had noticed, Catherine stroked her stomach and smiled as she explained that she was 5 months pregnant. Congratulations. Though Anna and I offered congratulations aloud, her hands were trembling slightly at that moment. Since Catherine had recently married, it was not strange for her to be pregnant. But she could not possibly know the truth, that Anna and I had just had a miscarriage caused by Catherine's younger brother. Her child would be born and receive blessings. But Anathy's child had not even had its existence known by anyone. Poor Anna, I remembered the child that had not even had time to take shape. She desperately wanted to voice these thoughts, but even if she said them aloud, nothing would change. At that moment, Catherine smiled and said that Madame was a little different from what she had expected. She had thought Madame would be an arrogant and conceited person. Hearing that, Anne and I asked in puzzlement, why? Because you are the only child of a marquis, Madame. As the only daughter of a marquis in this kingdom, it was possible for Catherine to think that way. And in truth, one could indeed say so. She was an only child, but Anna herself was the only one who did not know it. You're an only child, but do you have any relatives or siblings? Anna nodded. She had several cousins, though she was not very close to them. Hearing that, Catherine smiled. I see. As for me, I have one older brother and one younger brother. Like any siblings, even though we sometimes quarreled, our relationship was not bad. My older brother graduated and found a job at a trading company. He was a very ambitious person. He worked very hard, and he was also good at flattering his superiors. He always tried to climb to a higher position, and he did everything he could to reach that place. But every time, he failed to be promoted because the branch manager, who was a noble, stole his accomplishments. Up to that point, it was still bearable. But I heard that Noble promoted his own son. He could endure other things, but it seems my older brother could not endure that. And because of that, my older brother joined the Revolutionary Army. Hearing Catherine mention the Revolutionary Army, Anna and I was clearly taken aback. Catherine slowly continued. The name Revolutionary Army may sound very impressive, but most of them were people like my older brother. They were not people with great ability or lofty ambitions, only ordinary people. Hearing this story, Anathy's heart suddenly trembled in a strange way. Her heart kept urging her to run away and not listen anymore. But her reason insisted on staying and hearing the story to the end. I did not want to get involved with that place. I did not know much about it either. My older brother did not hold any important role there. At most, it was only a minor position. 5 years ago, when the Revolutionary Army was still at its peak, many people were taken away. My older brother was among them. It turned out that my older brother was a spy for an enemy nation Persian who had come to this country to incite civil war, and he had violated this country's laws. Hearing this, Anathai gradually began to remember something, and she asked herself in a strained voice, why did she have to listen? Why did she need to know these things? Catherine's next words made Anathai's expression change. The person responsible for interrogating my older brother was Marquis Dietrich, but it could not be called an interrogation. It should be called torture. He was sentenced to death immediately. After quickly passing judgment, the Marquis went straight somewhere else, as though there were some extremely urgent matter. Anathai's thoughts scattered along with Catherine's story. Anathai murmured that this was the first opportunity, as well as the last. The further Catherine spoke, the more Anathai returned to the past she had unknowingly forgotten. Her hands trembled as she listened to this story. The reason Marquis Dietrich had hurriedly carried out the execution and left that day was because of your piano performance, madam. The horrifying truth made Anathai's body tremble. She covered her mouth with her hand, trying not to let out a sob. It was that party, the place where Anathai had performed piano in public. Everyone at the party had gathered around her with praise, flattery, and chatter. At that moment, Anathai truly was the jewel in everyone's eyes. The innocent young girl had been overjoyed by the words of praise and the fresh bouquets of flowers. Her mother had also shown that she was very proud of her and said that the performance was wonderful. Her mother's praise made Anathai even more shy, and everyone decided they absolutely had to preserve that moment. Then Anathai and her mother called out to the Marquis from afar while he was discussing something with the soldier. "Handle it once." Immediately. "Yes, sir." The reporters were whispering among themselves when the call from his daughter made the Marquis turn to look back. "I'll be right there. Of course, I must take a photograph with my daughter." As he smiled and spoke, he waved his hand to signal the soldiers to hurry and do their work. Then, under the photographer's guidance, the three of them happily took a commemorative photograph together. A cheerful, happy family, with a sweet smile never leaving Anathai's lips. After the photograph was taken, Anathai finally had the chance to ask her father whether something had happened just now, since he had seemed quite busy. The Marquis shook his head and casually said that someone had been causing a commotion in front of the performance stage. Oh my, a commotion? Who was it and why? Because they were dissatisfied with the trial. Why are ignorant people unable to understand that the law is strict, and why do they keep committing crimes and then saying it is unfair? In any case, on a happy day like today, you needn't pay attention to it, my daughter. Anathai smiled gently at her father. "I see. I understand, father." A little while later, Anathai walked out onto the balcony to enjoy the night breeze, and only then did she let out a breath. Though she had been very nervous earlier, fortunately, there had been no mistakes in her performance. Thinking back on it now, her emotions had still not been quite right while performing. Next time, she would refine it further and show everyone her best self. Just as Anathai was murmuring to herself, a commotion in the distance drew her attention. The girl looked toward the mansion gate and discovered that the soldiers were holding someone outside. Beyond the fence, she recalled what her father had said earlier. The people who had caused trouble in front of the performance stage. Was the troublemaker that girl? Anathai wondered silently. That girl was struggling desperately, but the soldiers holding her pushed her away. Her hat also fell off, revealing her face. She looked terribly miserable and was trying to break free from the soldiers' grasp. A defiant face, brown hair, and eyes filled with hatred and tears. Anathai was slightly stunned because at that moment, the girl looked into the mansion, and by coincidence, their eyes met. How frightening, Anathai thought. The other girl was dragged far away by the soldiers, leaving only her scarf fallen on the ground. Standing on the balcony, Anathai felt as though some invisible hand had seized her and forced her to look at the depths of humanity. Just then, a hand from behind grabbed Anathai's shoulder, making her jump. "What is it? Why are you so startled? Are you staying up late? Why did you suddenly pat me? You scare me to death." Saw thee. I did call you, but you didn't answer. But what were you looking at?" "Oh, that? It was nothing. Just people dissatisfied with the trial causing a commotion." Anathai did not want to say anything about the incident. The girl looked toward the gate. In her field of vision was the scarf belonging to the girl from earlier. Escaping from her recollection and returning to the present, Catherine continued telling the story. And after that day, the next morning, her older brother was shot dead. She could not appeal, because from the very beginning, it had not been a just and fair trial. As Anathai remembered that story, her hands trembled while holding the teacup. I had hoped for news that the royal family had collapsed, and hoped that person would have to apologize and receive fitting punishment. But the very next day, the news of the Marquis's death was printed in the newspaper. The paper said he had been shot dead by the Revolutionary Army at the mansion. Without a single word of apology, it ended just like that. The pain and that horrific blood-stained day were once again stirred up in Anathy's mind, leaving the girl dazed and unusually silent. Catherine continued, saying that she had not come here hoping for leniency or to make any kind of agreement, because her younger brother had done terrible things to Madame. He deserved appropriate punishment, so she had nothing to say about that. But the reason Catherine had come here today was simply because she wanted to tell Madame that such a thing had happened in the past. Catherine only hoped that Madame would know how her older brother had died. Was ignorance a crime? And could Catherine blame Madame for it? Catherine still had not found the answer. That was why she said these words, not because she thought Madame was guilty. She sincerely expressed her regret over this recent incident and hoped Madame would recover soon. After speaking, Catherine stood up, bowed in farewell, and was about to leave. The sound of her footsteps gradually moved farther away, while Anathy still sat collapsed there, immersed in painful memories and in the guilt that had just surged up in her heart, though she had known nothing about that story at all. The sound of her father's desperate scream that day was still etched in her memory. Anathy, you must run. Run quickly. What was the reason she had to hear this story? Was it her first and last chance? By then, Catherine had reached the door and was about to leave the room. Her eyes were calm, without the slightest trace of anger, sadness, or wavering. Perhaps the pain and loss of her older brother and younger brother had numbed her emotions. Catherine's hand had just risen to open the door when it suddenly froze because she heard Madame's words from behind. In the silent space of the room, only the sobbing voice of that pitiful girl now echoed. I am sorry. I am truly sorry. Tears fell endlessly onto her tightly clenched hands. I am sorry. I am truly sorry. Catherine stopped, turned to look at Madame, and said, It's all right. I wanted to hear those words from someone. At that moment, Anathy's emotions were so intense that her tears soaked the front of her dress. She had never tried to understand them, nor had she ever thought that she had to understand, because those were things she had known absolutely nothing about. She had thought there was nothing in their lives they shared. But it was completely the opposite. They had shared some moment with each other. A commoner and a noble woman bearing the blood of the royal family. A woman who dreamed of becoming a pianist, and a woman who sold fruit. The family of the general who interrogated the Revolutionary Army, and the family of the revolutionary fighter driven to death by him. No matter what she did, she could never understand perfectly. However, Anna wanted to look back on the past and judge it for herself, so that she might understand even a little. And she had come to know that now, truly, things could never return to the way they had been. It was late at night. The lights were still on in Heiner's room, because he was extremely busy. At that moment, Anathy, wearing a flowing dress, weakly approached and placed some kind of paper on Heiner's desk. What is this, madam? This is a petition for clemency for David, the person who shot me the other day. Heiner asked in astonishment. Why did you write this? Did Catherine say something to you? Heiner, this is my right. It is my own choice. Are you trying to become a saint? Heiner asked sarcastically, displeased. Anathy gave a bitter smile and sighed. You know, I can't do that. I simply made a decision for myself. And besides, she said while looking at Heiner before her. The faint smile that had just appeared on her face startled Heiner, because it seemed it had been a long time since he had seen her smile like that. Hearing that, Anathy was also startled, suddenly realizing that she had just smiled, though it could hardly be called a truly happy smile. Silence once again enveloped the two of them, and perhaps the quiet gaps in their conversations were something that often occurred between them. Two pairs of eyes, each with a completely different expression, stared intently at one another in incomprehension. In the end, Anathy was the one who spoke first, breaking the silent atmosphere. I'm sorry. I don't resent you. It's just everything. I'm sorry, Heiner, for all the things I didn't know. Hearing that, Heiner gave a mocking smile. What are you apologizing for? Do you even know what it is before saying that? Anna was the daughter of the Marquis. The hatred he held toward her, and all the things she still did not know. Anathy thought silently, but she fell quiet before his question. It would be better if you never apologized to me for the rest of your life. I will do that. Anathy nodded and left the room. Steam rose from the hot water poured into the bathtub, filling the air with damp mist. Anathy was now sitting against the large bathtub in that luxurious, extravagant room. The girl's hand lightly touched the warm water and the fragrant rose petals. Even if she closed her eyes and covered her ears, even if she desperately insisted that she was innocent, Anadai could not deny it. A life born in error and raised in error. She had thought about the past and the future, about responsibility and the price she had to pay. And the conclusion she reached was this. Her pale hand gently scooped up a fresh red rose petal, red as blood, surrounded by the warm embrace of the water. Anadai was still wearing her clothes, but she let herself sink into the bath, where the faintly pink water looked exceedingly beautiful. In the end, after everything, Heiner had always wanted revenge against her, and as long as she remained alive, he would torment himself for the rest of his life. Perhaps living together in a distorted life of misery was what he truly wanted. As Anadai thought this, she slowly reached for the dagger placed on the table beside her. She picked up the knife, and this knife was the very thing Heiner had given her this morning during the meeting with Catherine. Now, what he wanted had come true, because Anadai was also tired. She was already too broken. Heiner's words from before echoed in Anathi's mind. Back then, he had told her not to think about anything, because she had always been very good at that. Gazing at the sharp knife, Anadai sat blankly. How could she possibly not think about anything? If her continuing to live this life could hurt someone or hurt everyone. Anathi's thoughts were in chaos, along with her pale wrist and the sharp knife in the warm water among the rose petals. If her very existence hurt everyone, then shouldn't she throw this life away? When Heiner had handed her this sharp knife, she had felt that this calm, cold thing somehow resembled him. After handing her the knife then, Heiner had immediately left to continue his work. His face was beautiful, but it had become terribly unfamiliar. I had stood dazed, watching his figure with the knife in her hand. Now, in the bathroom, Anathi's hand holding that sharp knife trembled as she brought the blade close to her pale wrist. Fresh red rose petals drifted down like drops of blood, beautifully staining the mysterious scene red. Water began to spill over the edge of the bathtub, carrying with it a faint red color. Congratulations. Congratulations. You have succeeded in your revenge. Anadai smiled gently and closed her eyes, letting the water dyed red with fresh blood wrap around her whole body. The sharp knife lay beside her, enveloped in a bright red color, indistinguishable as blood or the color of rose petals. At that moment, Heiner was still seated at his familiar desk in his room. A cigar was held between his lips, proving that his heart was now in great turmoil and needed release. Staring intently at the petition Anadai had handed him earlier, Heiner still could not believe that she had written this letter. Each line of writing looked very disordered on the white paper. Of course, Heiner also noticed this strangeness, because Anathi's handwriting had not been disorderly like this in the past. He hurriedly opened a drawer, revealing a thick bundle of letters, and knew he had to compare it with letters Anadai had written before. The old letters and today's petition for clemency were placed side by side, making the difference between the girl's handwriting at the 2 points in time clearly visible. Her handwriting really had changed greatly compared to before. In the past, Anadai had often written sulky letters to Heiner. To Heiner, the person who was always right. Do you think that after we parted like that, I would be happy if you only sent me a gift? The necklace is beautiful. You truly do have a good eye. A woman's taste for jewelry is like an eye for hidden thoughts. But you need to learn more in order to understand women's thoughts. I have read very carefully the newspaper and magazine articles about love, destiny, and healthy dating. Heiner, when I walk down the street and see beautiful clothes, I think of my next meeting with you. I thought that if I wore this dress on a date, I would surely look beautiful. Have you ever been like me? The day before yesterday, I had tea at Catherine's shop with Miss Coco. After arguing with you, I was truly exhausted, but suddenly Miss Coco told me about a few types of relationships between men and women. Only then did I begin to focus on the conversation. I started to wonder what type the two of us were. Unconsciously, I found myself thinking of you. The reason I'm telling you a story that hurts my pride like this is that I also feel guilty to some extent toward you, Heiner. And it also means I like you that much. Looking at the contents of this old letter, Heiner suddenly, without realizing it, smiled gently and thought to himself, I also cannot stop thinking about you. But the moment that thought appeared in his head, it startled him violently. Damn it, what was I just thinking? As though he had just awakened from a beautiful dream, Heiner stared blankly at the messy pile of letters on the desk. They were Anathi's letters, fragments of their happiest times that he had tried to cover up. Moments when everything had been a lie, and yet he had wanted to settle into that life. He would have preferred that the future never come at all. At this moment, Anathy's words from earlier appeared in his mind once more, startling Heiner. "I am sorry. I don't resent you." Only now did he belatedly remember that Anathi was not accustomed to apologizing. She was a woman who could not directly say sorry after an argument, and had to say it through letters instead. Even a letter that began with reproach would include, because of her pride, an apology only to some extent. She was not someone who would say an apology directly, as she had earlier, much less apologize for all the things she did not know. Heiner stared blankly, his eyes widening, unable to believe what he had realized. At this moment, it couldn't be. He cried out and remembered the girl's box of sleeping pills. Now, whenever she wanted to fall asleep, she had to use medicine. Even her embroidery skills had become messy and no longer beautiful like before. And that time at the beach, when she had played in the water, there was no way. She was not someone who would make that choice. But at some point, everything had become strange like this. He did not know when she had stopped being the woman he knew. During this time, Anathi had changed so much, and only now did Heiner finally realize it in time. He hurriedly shot up from his chair, then quickly ran out of the room. Since when? Since when? As he ran to search for Anathi, he kept asking himself, since when had Anathy's change begun? When exactly had it started? Running hurriedly down the dark corridor, all of Heiner's emotions were now tangled like a ball of thread. He hastily called out to two servants passing by and loudly asked, "Where is Madam?" "Pardon, Madam is probably in her room, sir. She said she was tired, so she would go to sleep." Hearing the servant's report, Heiner immediately turned and ran toward the bedroom. Anathi. He ran faster and faster, extremely hurried, because for some reason, he suddenly felt terribly uneasy. A frightening thought began to rise in his heart, but Heiner hastily denied it. "No, it cannot be. Knock, knock, knock." The hurried sound of knocking rang out, along with his voice calling, "Madam, madam, are you inside?" "It is me." Heiner hurriedly knocked on the door and called loudly for a long while. But inside, there was only a strange silence. No one answered. That bad premonition surged up again, unbearably strong, making him unable to restrain himself. He hurriedly opened the door and rushed in. "Anathi, where are you?" But at that moment, the room was pitch black and empty. There was no one there at all. At this moment, it should have been his turn to laugh at her, to say she was not worthy of doing such a thing. But Heiner was completely anxious. "Anathi, Anathi, Anathi, where are you?" The man became utterly panicked. He ran everywhere, constantly calling her name aloud, but found nothing. In the end, he burst through the door and rushed into the bathroom. The bathroom was stained with a liquid, the pale red of fresh blood, diluted with water. The whole room was hazy with clear steam, beautiful and sorrowful. That bizarre scene made Heiner freeze as if time had stopped. He stared blankly with wide eyes, as though a powerful bolt of lightning had struck him directly, leaving him temporarily without sensation. A moment later, coming back to himself with a start, Heiner hurriedly stepped through the water and ran toward the bathtub. He trembled blankly, staring at the girl lying motionless in the bathtub filled with fresh blood and water. Her hand, too, had been dyed vivid red by the blood. And I had already fallen unconscious at some unknown point. The maids also arrived then and asked what happened, but after seeing the scene in the bathroom, all the maids screamed in terror. Heiner immediately screamed violently, as if he had gone mad. "Call the doctor. Hurry." No, Anathi. This cannot be happening." Heiner held Anathi in his arms, while muttering like a madman. "No, it cannot be like this." For the moment, he laid her down on the bed, staining the pure white sheets with the color of fresh blood. "It is all right, Anathi. It is all right." The hand with which he held a white cloth soaked in water was trembling, and the constant muttering spilling from his mouth made it clear that his mind was not stable at all. "It is all right. It is all right." His fear and loss of composure even made the cups nearby tremble, then fall with a crash and shatter. He used the towel to press against Anathy's blood-soaked wound, as if trying desperately to stop the blood from flowing. How could this have happened? Looking at the towel that had just been pure white and was now bright red with blood, Heiner went mad in a daze, as if he were about to collapse. "You cannot do this to me. You cannot." At that moment, the family doctor was called over in time and hurried in. "Save her! Save her, quickly!" He turned back and roared at the doctor like a wild beast in a fury. The maids were also extremely busy preparing the tools so the doctor could treat the patient more easily. As for Heiner, he stood there blankly, his wide eyes staring fixedly at Anathi on the sick bed. The doctor was also sweating as she treated her, because the girl's condition did not look good at all. Heiner stood dazed in the middle of the room, constantly panting, his chest heaving. He simply could not calm down. You must despair too, the way I despaired back then. You must lose everything, just as I lost everything. My life has been dark for far too long. Your life must become just as dark. As he looked at the girl, lying in a pool of blood on the bed, Heiner's face showed strange expressions. I have to be by your side in the moments when you're most unfortunate. I have to stay beside you in your misfortune, Anathai. For the rest of your life, my presence must definitely be there. While whispering meaningless words, Heiner slowly closed his eyes. But in the next instant, when he opened his eyes, he had appeared in a colorful flower garden filled with fantasy. Heiner looked around and silently wondered, because this place was familiar. Could this be a dream? At that moment, a girl with long blonde hair and a parasol came to his side. Heiner, what are you thinking about so deeply? The girl asked. Although the voice was very familiar, Heiner could not see that face clearly no matter what. Looking at the woman before him, he slowly answered, I am thinking about you. Thinking about me? What are you thinking? I'm thinking about the first time I met you. It was here, in the rose garden of the Rosenberg mansion. Father introduced you to me then. The girl cheerfully explained. No, it was before that. Heiner shook his head in denial. Before that? When was it? Much earlier. A very long time ago. Following Heiner's thoughts, a familiar piece of music suddenly appeared, wrapping around him and the girl's figure. The musical notes danced together with the flower petals, as if trying to guide Heiner, guiding him toward a certain familiar window. Heiner slowly followed the dancing notes and approached that window. As if by a habit formed long ago, he familiarly lifted his face and looked inside. The sound of music came from the piano of a beautiful girl with blonde hair. The innocent girl smiled with flushed cheeks, happily playing the keys. The man Heiner's eyes remained fixed on that figure, and at some point, both her figure and her song had been deeply carved into his heart. A beautiful, noble young lady, carefree in her lovely childhood. Suddenly, at that moment, Heiner's gaze was drawn to a pale blue flower. It was a blue hydrangea, exceedingly eye-catching and elegant. Seeing those colors and that flower branch, Heiner was startled as if struck by lightning. The beautiful girl whose fingers had been dancing over the keys also stopped her song and stared blankly out the window at a scene filled with fresh blood. The terrifying sight startled Heiner awake. After that strange dream about the past, he unconsciously kept calling Anathi's name. At this point, Anathi had been unconscious for several days straight, and those days were all sleepless days for Heiner, making the dark circles under his eyes even more obvious. He kept sitting by the bed, watching over that girl. Physical and mental exhaustion made the man look as if he were about to collapse. So why exactly is she still not waking up? Faced with that question, the doctor did not know how to answer. Well, at present, she still has the wound from being shot, as well as the after effect from the previous miscarriage. And then this happened on top of that. Her body has become too weak. Although this does not threaten her life, the wound was rather deep and she lost too much blood. So she will need a great deal of time to recover. At this point, the doctor suddenly fell silent for a moment, and it also depends on her will. Perhaps Madame does not want to wake up. Heiner was like a man who had lost his soul, only calling Anathi's name over and over. In truth, it felt as though the one with a psychological problem was him, not Anathi. Anathi, I cannot believe it. You really did something like that to such an extent? You are such a timid person. You are a timid and weak girl. You are afraid of the dark, afraid of heights, afraid of water. And you're also terribly afraid of blood. You are a girl raised like a flower in a greenhouse, so beautiful and noble. You got what you wanted, did you not? Suddenly, someone's figure appeared beside him, whispering into Heiner's ear and making him start in fright. Heiner hurriedly raised his face and looked up, only to discover that the person before him was himself. How is it? Anathi's life is now more terrifying than death. How fortunate. Now she is unfortunate enough to die. She would be better off dead. And were you not going to kill her with your own hands? Now why are you suffering and tormenting yourself here? Heiner stared blankly at the strange man before him who looked exactly like him. That is true. But that was once true, but what? You wanted her to disappear from this world. But in the end, I could not do it. Heiner clutched his aching head and rubbed his face. Is this not all exactly as you wished? What else is there to think about? No, it is not. What do you mean it is not? Congratulations on getting what you wanted. The rambling words of the strange man before him made Heiner shout angrily. I told you it is not. Not like this. She cannot leave me in this way. What I wanted was not this. What I wanted was, in the blink of an eye, the man before him who looked exactly like himself completely vanished. Heiner also returned to the familiar room. He trembled blankly with a confused heart. Perhaps the one who ought to undergo psychological treatment was him. It was so severe that he was even hallucinating. The helpless man slumped his head down on the chair. Damn it. Very soon, the reporters sniffed out the information and published articles about Anithie's attempted suicide at the mansion. The people also began discussing the matter and wondering why she had acted that way. They had to think carefully about her unfortunate choice and the reasons behind it. Reporters and citizens also came to the mansion to watch the commotion, making the grounds noisier and more crowded than ever. Fortunately, soldiers stopped them in time, preventing them from rushing inside. Heiner stood upstairs behind a glass window, looking at the crowd below with an irritated frown. He truly wanted to shoot them all dead right then. Just then, the butler came forward and reported, "A guest of Madam has come to see her." The butler did not know what to do. Hearing this, Heiner answered perfunctorily, "Tell him she cannot meet anyone right now and send him away." The person said that if he cannot meet Madam, he wants to meet Your Excellency, the commander. "Who exactly is it?" Heiner asked irritably. "Sir, it is Lord Anga. He came to see Madam last time as well." Hearing this name, Heiner had a headache again and waved his hand. Then just send him away. But suddenly, he remembered something. It was Anithie's resentful voice when she discovered that he had hidden all the letters she should have received. Heiner recalled it and sighed. Why did the person he least wanted to see have to appear right now? "Butler, bring him to the reception room in the main building. I will be there shortly." The door opened. Heiner stepped inside, and inside was Anga, who had been sitting there waiting for some time. As soon as he saw Heiner, Anga stood up angrily and shouted curses at him. "Are you satisfied now? You turned Anithie into this. Are you satisfied now? Hurry up and say something." Anga rushed forward in anger and grabbed Heiner by the collar. "Say something, you damn bastard. You lowborn stud. Trampling on noble families is fun, is it not? You bastard." Hearing these words must make you uncomfortable, right? Facing Anga's insults, Heiner calmly pushed him away. "Your mouth has become much fouler, has it not? Why did you come here today?" Anga let out a breath. "I came because I cannot entrust Anithie's life to someone like you." "So you intend to take her to France? Are you planning to hand her over to the place where the royalist faction is recovering its power? Then are you going to let her live like this for the rest of her life?" Anga questioned him. Even taking Anithie away would cause damage to him. The reason they wanted Anithie was because she carried the blood of the royal family and was the noblest among the surviving nobles. She was also young enough to give birth to a new generation. In other words, Anithie's descendants would continue the royal line. But the people outside did not know that Anithie was infertile. That meant the thing they wanted from her no longer existed. If he learned this truth, how would Anga react? Heiner thought silently. "What you said is not wrong. But Anga, I cannot hand her over to you." Anga shouted angrily. "Even this still is not enough? Just how unfortunate do you want to make Anithie?" Facing his curses, Heiner remained resolute and did not care at all. Because that woman could not leave him. That woman was both his cause and his result. So no matter what happened, whether in life or death, that woman absolutely could not leave this place. "I will help Anithie file for divorce." Anga's cold words pulled Heiner out of his memories. "Because you drove your wife to the brink of death. That is reason enough. Even if she goes to France after the divorce, there will be nothing you can do." Facing the threat from a man before him, Heiner remained calm. "Let us see. I doubt it will go the way you wish. If you want to be humiliated internationally, then go ahead and try. We will meet in court." Anga had just turned to leave when Heiner's words made him stop. "If she goes to France, will you marry Anithie? Do you still love her, Anga?" Anga turned and glanced back, wondering why Heiner was curious about that. Heiner pondered for a moment before continuing. "If she goes to France with you, I wonder whether she will be happier." Anga was stunned by this question. Whether she is happy or not, at least she will not be so miserable that she wants to die like this. The conversation between the two of them, disjointed and without a clear end, quickly concluded. At this time, Major Eugen was reporting what had happened to his master. "I apologize, Commander-in-Chief. I know you are on leave, but I had urgent documents, so I came to find you." "It is fine, Major Eugen. This is your work. Even so, I apologize for disturbing you. You look quite exhausted." Heiner paid no attention and continued burying himself in his books and papers. Seeing this side of him, Major Eugen also sighed. "Why must you suffer something like this because of Madam. The Major's voice became exceedingly resentful, with a strange sarcasm to it. The reporters are also in an uproar. There are even articles speculating that it was you who drove your wife to her death. In any case, this was nothing more than an act. So why are they saying so much? The pen Heiner was using to write on the paper stopped abruptly when he heard those words. His cold voice rang out. Major Eugen. When a major was suddenly called by name, he also started and stood straight. Please take back what you just said, because she truly intended to die. Anna and I had truly wanted to die. That was right. It had not been an act. It had not simply been self-harm. The truth he was trying so hard to turn away from was that she had become like this because of him. Under the sunset light of a beautiful afternoon, Heiner strode into Anathy's bedroom. He looked over the scenery and the objects around him. The room was now large, filled with warm sunlight, but empty. There was no one there. According to the doctor, Madam had been moved to the villa to be cared for. The caretakers would remain there constantly, so if he needed anything, he could tell her at any time. Heiner slowly walked over and gently reached out to stroke Anathy's bed. This was the first time he had entered Anathy's room when she was not here. He absolutely did not want to admit that she had prepared herself to die. But perhaps now, he should look back at the traces she had left in this room. Heiner went to the dressing table, pulled open a drawer, and searched through it. He stared blankly at the bag inside the drawer and wondered to himself whether it was probably a bag for holding jewelry. But when he saw the objects inside the bag, Heiner was shocked and astonished. It turned out that inside the bag was a pile of shells and conches Anna and I had picked up on a beach the other day. These shells and conches were the things he had discovered when he happened to take the coat from the clothes rack. At that time, Heiner had clearly thrown them into the trash can at the hotel. Could she have picked up all these useless things again? Why exactly? Heiner blankly recalled the moment when he had followed that girl from the train station. Then he hurriedly searched through the room, because there definitely had to be something here. On the train that day, Anna I had also told the strange woman that perhaps even if she died, her husband would not care. Mixed in with those jumbled memories was the frantic figure searching all over Heiner's room. There had to be something he had missed in this room. At last, beneath the cabinet boxes, he discovered a strange object. It was a safe, but had not been locked. It was open. He gently pushed the safe door aside. Seeing the items neatly placed inside, Heiner froze in bewilderment. These were Anathy's jewelry box and the donation documents for the Citizens Association that she had been entrusted with before. As he picked up the documents and examined them, he wondered, hadn't she been dismissed from her job after the revolution? She had even handed things over to her successor. Even junk like these conch and clam shells, and these papers and the jewelry box too. Everything had been carefully prepared beforehand. Why had she done all this without anyone noticing? Unexpectedly, inside that jewelry box lay only a single diamond ring. The precious ring that Anna and I had cherished during her marriage. Heiner silently looked at the ring. That was right. All of this had been prepared by her. His hands trembled slightly as he reached toward the ring. These were all things she had given up. He collapsed in the room, clutching the ring, acting as if he were in terrible pain and regret. Compared to the way he had cruelly treated Anathai with cold indifference, did he not look utterly disgusting now? At that moment, Anathai still lay unconscious in the sickbed, unable to wake. He went to her side and gazed at her, then shifted his eyes to the ring in his hand. He murmured that, until now, he had never once taken this wedding ring off his hand. Even when he hated her, even when he missed her, he had never taken this ring off his finger. Heiner slowly sat down in the chair beside Anathy's bed. He sat there blankly, asking himself in his heart, Anathai, I still don't know what I should do. Because now you're no longer pure, naive, and cheerful like you were before. So much has happened, and nothing between us has been resolved. I will still go on hating you. I cannot forgive you, and I cannot take revenge on you. But Anathai, now I am so conflicted and confused. If you wake up and are no longer asleep like this, then go to that shore. If you want to see the sea, I will let you see the sea you want. I will let you go where you want to go, and let you do what you want to do. So, for the sake of that freedom, please wake up quickly. Along with those thoughts, Heiner gradually moved closer to Anathy's bed. His hands trembled. He was about to touch her pale face, but as if restraining himself. In the end, he could only sit helplessly back down in the chair. So please stay by my side, Anathai. The moon had risen high, casting a mysterious, beautiful light across the lofty sky. In the room, Heiner, though busy with piles of documents, still sat beside the bed, unable to leave. As for Anathai, the girl remained immersed in a deep sleep, showing no sign that she might wake. Her pale, golden lashes looked incomparably mysterious, and that bloodless face made one want to cherish and protect her more than anything. The consciousness of the pitiful girl sank into endless darkness. Suddenly, the sound of a piano echoed faintly. Each note of the melody began to dance through the girl's thoughts. The wondrous melody of childhood began to pierce through Anathai's entire life. The tones, once cheerful and beautiful, suddenly became heavy, slow, and unbearably oppressive. Who am I? Where's this place? Anathai's tightly closed eyes slowly opened in confusion. Her consciousness gradually cleared, adjusting to the light outside. The girl stared blankly up at the ceiling. Seeing that she had awakened from her coma, Heiner rushed over in panic and hurriedly called her name. Anathai, can you hear me? Can you see me? Seeing this man appear in her field of vision, Anathai's eyes widened in shock. Her reaction afterward left Heiner completely stunned and unable to believe it. When she saw that man, Anathai's face filled with horror and tears began to stream down. Seeing her expression, he trembled and softly called her name, Anathai. But just then, the doctor had also arrived and was about to check the patient's condition. While the doctor examined her, tears still continued to roll down those pitiful cheeks. Why was the first thing she encountered after waking from the gates of Hella's face? Heiner stood rooted to the spot as he watched her cry. Perhaps even he could not believe that her first reaction upon seeing him would be like this. Commander-in-Chief, Madam likely needs to rest first. Could you please step outside? Yes, I will leave right away. At the doctor's request, Heiner slowly walked out and closed the door. Then he sat down sadly, collapsing against the door with his back to it. Perhaps Anai did not regret trying to die at all. She was not used to pain and hated pain very much. As he thought this, he gave a self-mocking smile. She hated pain so much, and yet she chose that method. And judging by her expression earlier, she definitely had not wanted to wake up. Not even a little. Heiner sighed with a headache. Surely he had to talk to her. But what could he do? What could he possibly say? Heiner asked himself helplessly. Anna, I was despairing of life and had not even the slightest desire to survive. After the doctor finished examining her, Anathai rested in her bed with a maid watching beside her. At this moment, the pitiful girl still could not fall asleep. She kept wondering why she was still alive. She had clearly cut her wrists in order to die. Could it be that she had not had enough strength at the time? Was it because she had lived a life where she even needed someone else to open bottle caps for her? So now even cutting her wrists to kill herself had failed? But if they had simply left her alone, she would have died. So why had they saved her? Excuse me, Anathai called out. Hearing this, the maid immediately started in surprise. Ah, madame, do you need something? Well, I want to be alone. Could you step outside for a moment? The maid stammered. Ah, I am sorry, but there are orders not to leave madam alone. I'm fine, so please go. But the doctor said, first, I will call your guardian here. There is no need to call him. The troubled maid then went over to open the door. Even so, I must discuss it. Suddenly, the door opened and Heiner appeared right after that. What is it? Seeing Heiner appear, the maid immediately told him Anathai's request. Seeing this scene, Anathai lay on the bed and sighed wearily. After the maid left, Heiner entered the room and closed the door. He stood awkwardly for a while, not knowing what to do, before finally approaching her sickbed. Anathai, are you feeling better? Do you feel unwell anywhere? Your condition is unstable right now, so if you are alone, we cannot know what might happen. Anathai did not want to listen to his nonsense, and only asked coldly, did you save me? Heiner's body trembled slightly, then he slowly nodded. Yes. The girl looked toward the man beside her and questioned him. Why? Why did you save me? Heiner, I was truly so miserable that I wanted to die. Just as you wished. This was the ending that both you and I wanted, but you ruined it. What? I ruined it. What exactly do you mean? Then are you saying I should have let you die? Looking at his disgusting appearance, Anathai remained completely cold. Yes, that is exactly what you should have done. No, I did not want this ending. Heiner's hand trembled as he clutched the edge of the chair. Are you serious? You had never once thought of this ending? The girl asked coldly, while lightly raising her hand and looking at the bandaged hand. You wanted me to be miserable, but you never thought I might choose death? Are you stupid or are you insane? You do not even see me as a human being, do you? Do you see me as your ornament? That is even worse than wishing I were dead. Faced with Anathy's sharp questioning, the man was rendered speechless, stunned, and not knowing how to answer. I truly never wanted you to die. I never wanted that, Anathai. He lowered his head wearily toward the floor. The next day, clear sunlight once again covered the vast mansion. As soon as she woke, Anathai returned to her own bedroom. During that time, it was said that Anga had repeatedly come looking for her. At this moment, the girl was reading the letters sent by Anga. Anathai weakly called that name in her heart. And now, everything between us has changed. Anga, we can no longer return to the close relationship we had in childhood. Anathai slowly picked up the hand mirror beside her. Should we not leave those beautiful memories in the past? Anathai, may I come in? There was a knock on the door, and Anga's voice sounded from outside. Come in. Hello, Anga. It is cold outside, isn't it? Yes, it is rather cold. The wind is strong too. Anathai gave a faint smile, tinged with apology. I am sorry. I cannot go down to the reception room. It is all right. How is your body? Faced with his caring question and gentle manner, Anathai smiled and answered that everything was fine. Thank you for your concern. After that came a long silence. No one said anything. Only after a while did Anga speak again. At the very least, you should say you were tired. Why do you keep trying to be strong like this? Anathai smiled as she looked at the man and said that she was truly sorry. These were not words spoken in the capacity of a friend, because she could not give Anga what he wanted going to France with him. Anathai, I truly feel very sorry. Anga's hand touched the girl's weak hand. So please come to France with me. I will not blame you for anything, and I will not ask anything more. Do not think negatively anymore. Do not live here as if in hell anymore. Come to France with me. You have a better choice. So why must you be so pessimistic that you would try to kill yourself? She listened anxiously to every word he said. Anga, there is something I want to say. Is that I can no longer continue the royal bloodline. I have become infertile. The girl's direct words startled Anga. What? You can have the doctor who treated me confirm it if you need. I am infertile, and my reputation has already fallen to the bottom. Wait, Anathai. Then you. No. Seeing Anga's flustered appearance, Anathai decided to say everything, even if she was the symbol of the royal family. Now she no longer had any value, so she could not go with him. Anathai, since it has come to this, I should tell you the truth. What you think is not wrong. I need you in order to restore the royal government. That is the reason I was sent back to this country. The bloodline of the royal family. I truly did not want to say it with my own mouth, but that is also true. But that is not the only reason. I will not abandon you just because you are infertile. Hearing these words, Anathai grew even more confused. Why? You have no reason to take me away. How could I not? Do you not know that I like you? Anga confessed his sincere feelings. Anathy's cold eyes looked at him like this. Her identity, her power, her wealth and splendor, her reputation, dignity, and status. The things he loved, the things she had achieved, were now all things that had vanished. Anga, I have nothing to give you. Hearing this, the young man immediately protested. No, Anathi. Even without those things, I still want you. Want me? Do you mean you want to marry me? Hearing this, Anga became slightly flustered. That, of course. But I have not been divorced for very long, and the issue of your divorce still remains. So you can take your time to think about it. More importantly, your answer. I want to hear your answer before I leave. Please come with me to France, Anathai. As Anga spoke, he extended his hand toward Anathai. The sight of him like this once again made Anathai remember their childhood. The girl's weak eyes wavered between the past and the future as she silently called his name. Anga, in the room, glittering with sunlight from outside. The two of them simply sat together like that,